Thank you. It is our culture to remember God Almighty before everything we do or start. So let us begin this inauguration seeking the blessing and presence of God Almighty. I would like to invite Mrs. Poram Shingala to render the invocation song, and let us all stand for the same.
Achyuta Keshava Hari Narayana Bhavabhayahara Vandita Charana Bhavabhayahara Vandita Charana Raghukula Bhushana Rajiva Lochana Anandashayana Sachidananda Shri Satyanarayana Anandaramana Achyuta Keshava Hari Narayana.
Thank you, Poram. May I request Dr. Sharad sir to welcome the dignitaries with bouquet. Thank you, sir. We shall now have the welcome address by Mr. Mahesh Patil, Associate Director, CDAC Hyderabad. Let me introduce Sir. Mr. Mahesh Patil is working as Associate Director at CDAC Hyderabad. In the last 20 years of his professional career, he has developed core competency in embedded systems, embedded and real-time operating systems, mobile application development, and mobile security. I kindly request Mr. Mahesh Patil, sir, to deliver the welcome address. Over to you, sir.
A very good morning to everybody. It is my privilege to present this welcome address on behalf of SETS and CDAC. As you all know, this is an one-day webinar on IoT security, which we fondly call it as WISE. To grace this webinar, today we have eminent dignitaries who will enlighten us with their views and perspectives in this inaugural session. To start with, I would first like to welcome our chief guest, Dr. R. Chidambaram sir, who is the honorary chairman of the School of Advanced Studies in Nuclear Science and Technology, and also the former PSA to the Government of India. Sir, we are honored and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for accepting to deliver the inaugural address and gracing this occasion. And all of this in spite of your busy schedule. On behalf of SETS and CDAC, we formally welcome you for this event, sir. We would now like to welcome Dr. Sukumar Nandi, sir, Senior Professor, IIT Guwahati, who has been a mentor to us in the popular national level initiative called Information Security Education and Awareness, ICA. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation and accepting to deliver the special address on this occasion. We would like to welcome Dr. S.D. Sudarshan, sir, Executive Director, CDAC Bangalore, who has been spearheading national level projects at CDAC in the domain of information security, network security, cyber physical systems, and data analytics, to name a few. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation and agreeing to deliver the keynote address for this event. We would now take the pleasure to welcome Dr. Sarchandra Babu, Executive Director, SETS, who is the brainchild behind this webinar series. We thank you, sir, for all the guidance and motivation to organize this webinar and accept him to deliver the special address on this occasion. We welcome all the speakers of this workshop, Dr. John Jose, Mr. Vikash Mishra, Mr. Suresh Chandra, Dr. Prem, Ms. Nalini, Dr. Shrikant, Mr. Amal Raj, Mr. Mirza Beg, Mr. Hari Prasad, and Mr. Vishnu Praveen. Most importantly, I welcome all the participants of this workshop who have joined us from various parts of the country, without which this workshop will have no success. Welcome to Director CDAC Hyderabad Lakshmishwari Madam and all my friends and colleagues at SETS and CDAC. With this, I once again welcome you all for this one-day webinar on IoT security and hand it over to SETS to take the session forward from here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We shall now have the special address by Dr. Sarath Chandra Babu, Executive Director, SETS Chennai. It gives me immense pleasure to invite our beloved Executive Director to deliver the special address.
Good morning and welcome you all for this WISE 2022, that is webinar on information IoT security. And I am very much well, organizers from SETS and CDAC are very much honored to have Dr. R. Chidambaram sir, former Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India and also former Chairman to Department of Atomic Energy and present honorary Chairman to the School of Advanced Studies in Nuclear Sciences and Technology. It's an immense pleasure to have you always with us, sir. And SETS is your brainchild, and it's always we feel honored, to the kind of importance that you give to the SETS as though it's a small organization in your bigger, activities of at the national level. It's I think this the seed of doing this, though we have done 2 years back, WISE 2020, somehow we couldn't do last year. But a couple of weeks back, when Chidambaram sir said that he would be in Chennai, we thought that how we would be able to celebrate his presence after 2 years of pandemic when he is coming here. So we thought that he is always, loves technology. So I thought, so why not we conduct, and contacted CDAC Hyderabad, and who have run this workshop earlier, and Information Security Education Awareness Program of Ministry of Electronics and IT. So they all agreed, and they're all the more happy to associate and in fact take the lead and provide the platform to conduct this webinar. So I am extremely thankful to them for making it happen, especially as a small, the token of our love and affection to Dr. Chidambaram sir. And it's an honor to have Dr. Sudarshan, who is the best friend of me for 2.5 decades or so. When I started, meeting him when he was in one of the ministry societies, and we all attended on a small workshop on microcontrollers, where it happened to be I am a teacher and he was a student. So that's how he always considers me guru, though he has gone far ahead. So this is what I tell many people. Why, Sarath, you always conduct webinars, workshops, training programs? Maybe I have conducted 200, I don't know numbers. I say that one is when I conduct, the people whoever attend, that Guru Shishya Bhava will come, and that association gives a lot of pleasure, because I started my career at REC Warangal as a teacher. For 6 years I was there. And I understand the kind of an importance of training education. In fact, I'm happy to be associated with ISCA, because when ISCA program started, I was in CDAC Hyderabad, and we were all part of a team to actually plan and do this, and it's flourishing in a big way now. And thanks to Lakshmi Iswari, Director of CDAC Hyderabad, and Senior Director, and after Mr. CHS Murthy, who is spearheading the ACA program. They were all instrumental in this. And I take this opportunity to say that the importance of IoT, I think I'm sure all speakers will be talking, so I don't want to take much of the time. But one thing I can see is the kind of a building that small steps taken at these organizations which are involved and who are speaking, they are all having some amount of practical exposure to the technologies. If you talk about CDAC, Hyderabad, Bangalore, they were the people for the last 2 decades working on ubiquitous computing, smart cities, IoT technologies, and they understand the challenges that are happening right from the number of devices as it grows in millions and billions. What happens to managing normally traditional? We are all struggling connecting computers and mobile and facing cyber attacks. But everything that you do is connected through an internet through a small device. And that numbers grow with a person 100 devices or so, and with an automobile car with some 250 smart devices connected internally over a network like a control area network kind of a thing. In that kind of a situation, so all these things, and because they are getting connected to the internet, so internet, it's improving the quality of life. At the same time, there are certain issues, right? So now we have very new attacks happening time to time, and it's becoming a very difficult situation. In that, IoT is a very good thing because you are able to do everything in real time, do many things, but at the same time, attacks happen that will impact the routine life of the common man to pattern things that can happen in a process control automation industries. So this large bandwidth of IoT devices and their applications innumerable, but at the same time, the cyber attacks are going to be there, and because IoT devices are, the resource constraint is there. You can't apply whatever cybersecurity solutions you are using in the traditional systems. You need to address them by looking at what level of technology, how we can optimize the code and space, everything. So all those issues will come. I'm very sure that this long day of number of speeches that stitched to become IoT security would help all the participants in a big way. And once again, I take this opportunity to thank all speakers for accepting to be part of it and on behalf of the on behalf of SETS, and especially thank our Dr. Chidambaram sir for his presence, gracious presence, and we are also honored as a PSA to Government of India is also SETS president. So that association we continue to have, and we cherish that, sir. Thank you once again and welcome you all. And thanks to Hari Prasad Sukanya's team from SETS side for coordinating, and the other side, Srikanth from CDAC Hyderabad side, and Chas Murthy from ISCS side to coordinate this event to make it happen. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir, for valuable information and highlighting the key points on the webinar. Next, we will have a special address by Dr. Sukumar Nandi, Senior Professor, IIT Guwahati. Dr. Sukumar Nandi is currently working as a professor in Department of Computer Science and Engineering, IIT Guwahati. Presently, he is a fellow of Indian National Academy of Engineering, senior member ACM and IEEE, fellow of Institution of Engineer, fellow of Institution of Electronic and Telecommunication Engineer. He has completed his PhD in Computer Science and Engineering from IIT Kharagpur. He has also worked as a visiting senior fellow in Division of Computer System, School of Computing Engineering, and NTU Singapore. Moreover, he was also the Dean Infrastructure, Planning and Management, Deputy Director, Dean of Academic Affairs, and Dean of Research and Development at IIT Guwahati. May I now request Dr. Sukumar Nandi sir to deliver the special address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you for introducing me. Respected Dr. R. Chidambaram ji, all dignitaries, offline and online, all speakers, all participants, and ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. I, on behalf of Information Security Education Awareness Program, welcome you to Information Security Awareness Group, the family of Security Awareness Group. It's my pleasure to say something about the ISA. Those who are aware, it's redundant. For others, it is an information. It is under Ministry of Electronics and IT, Government of India, Program for Capacity Building, Education, Training, Mass Awareness in Information Security. We started our journey 2002 at interministerial group, and ultimately we launched our first phase in 2005. 2006 to 2014, we ran it first phase of the program, where mainly awareness, less research, though there was PhD and master degree was in place, but research emphasis was less, awareness is more, and we did it mainly related to the wire network and security, as well as the application layer security, application related security. Subsequently, 2014, we migrated to phase 2. In the phase 2, started in 2015 with 52 institutions at 3 levels. We established few research institute. One of them is the name of ISRDC, that is IISc Bangalore, IIT Madras, and IIT Guwahati, and IIT Bombay. And the rest other institutes and organizations, they also did research and awareness. And main philosophy here, or objective scopes, are generation of core research manpower in information security. We started our journey in phase 2 as a research mode partially, and we looked into all aspects, including wireless network and other aspects of security. But on the way, when we progress, we realized that we have to take care of other aspects of the security, that is IoT security, machine learning aspects, data mining, data analytics, and we added one by one. If we go to achievement of this phase 2, the multi-institutional network of 52 institutions we established, lab infrastructure to support research and formal and non-formal education, we did it. Manpower generation, we did it. Target was 1.14 lakhs, but we were able to achieve 3.54 lakhs. Training government officials, which were subsequently added, it was not earlier in our framework. We created 2 self-paced e-learning portals with 22 course setups for the government official training, and virtual lab for hands-on training on information security, network security, penetration testing for government officials. Till now, 24,399 government officials are trained in short-term course by 13 implementing agencies, in which includes 11,113 candidates in central ministry departments and other for generic and foundation course, 50 master trainer of MAIT and its organizations trained at IITs and USA, CMU USA. We did a huge mass awareness program. Though target was 3 crores, we achieved indirectly and directly total more than 6 crores. And as per paper is concerned, we have published more than 1,000 papers. We have prepared syllabus and courseware for different security related program at UG and PG, as well as formal level, and MOOC courses. International conference we have organized 4 since 2017 to 2021. We did bilateral cooperation with different organizations with outside India, and new initiative we created ISA virtual presentation conflict and rest other things I have mentioned. So in the phase 3, we while doing phase 2, we realized that in phase 3, we should give little or more emphasis on the contemporary research, emerging research, and futuristic research which are coming up. And we want that 10 thematic areas in contemporary, emerging, and futuristic research, like AI, machine learning, security, fintech, and others. In 5G security and it's coming 6G, we have to look into this. That's why we created 10 thematic areas. We proposed this. However, this is in under consideration of the ministry. We are likely to have in future this in place. Now coming to the workshop or webinar, we are at Industry 4.0. Cyber physical system, Internet of Things, and networks are part and parcel of our life. Society 5.0, other communities, Japan, and they are talking about Society 5.0, and they looks into IoT, big data, AI, robot, and automated systems. And they also talks about the cyber physical systems, specifically where the system of collaborating computational element controlling the physical entity. And CPS are physical and engineering system whose operations are monitored, coordinated, controlled, and integrated by computing and communication core. They allow us to add capability of physical system by merging computing and communication with physical process. I don't want to talk about IoT per se definitions, but it has multiple names: machine-to-machine communication, Internet of Things, Internet of Anything. In short, IoT can be considered as a physical ecosystem of interconnected sensors and actuators which enable intelligent decision making. So sensor is one side and actuator is another side. Today, if we look into the blood sugar scenario in India, the patients having blood sugar scenario in India is very high, and controlling blood sugars, alternatives are available, and there is option called it's a systems which can be put it into our pocket or some place and fit it into the stomach, belly, actually belly and stomach, that area, and which can sense the glucose content of the body. So sensor is there, and there is also an algorithm which take care of the how much sugar content in the body, the sugar reading, and accordingly will pump the insulin. So our looking into this is one of the scenario. IoT ecosystems, specifically, we are looking into endpoints, sensor, actuator, and embedded devices connected to the network by gateway and others. So if we look into the IoT asset, everything in the systems, everything are part of the IoT assets. However, there are problems related to IoT. Now, questions may come up, why IoT security matters? If we look into the details, we'll find no device is fully secure. Why? Reliance on third-party component in terms of hardware, in terms of software, in terms of communication components. So dependency on networks and external services is also necessary. Design of IoT or connected devices are also very, very important. Vulnerability in protocols exist. In other way, security by design, not the norm when IoT came in picture, now also. So if you look into the present scenario, IoT security is currently limited. Investment on securities are not that much compared to the communication side. functionality before securities we are looking, and real physical threats with risk of health and safety is, and the last, the very important one, no legal framework for liabilities that is exist. So main challenges I want to put it here, the very large attack surface, widespread deployment, limited device resources, lack of standard, those standardizations now coming up, safety and security process integrations, they are also coming up. We are part and parcel of the systems. Security by design, not a top priority initially, now it is coming up. Lack of expertise. So awareness, this webinar is making sure that we should create our expertise or at least awareness what we are using, apply security and insecure development, and the most important is unclear liabilities. If we look into threat landscape, starts from numerous active of abuse, that is spoofing standard techniques, virus trojans, they will remain, exploit toolkits are available, counterfeit or malicious devices because of third-party devices, it is already there, and attacks are coming targeted. Modification of information is part and parcel, attack on privacy, which is now more serious issue, though European Union having that some privacy related the acts or rules, regulations. And if you go to the physical attack, device modification is possible, device destruction is also possible, and malfunctioning, if you look, software vulnerability and third-party failure, and outage is one of the issue, disasters are the, and similarly, eavesdropping interpersonal attacks are part and parcel of the systems. So in short, there are many attacks on IoT, attacks over the entire IoT systems. I am only looking into the lower side. The sensor actuator, how we can make they may not work, or at least the battery drain, so it's not functional. Communications can be disrupted, which one talk, several talks are available in this webinar related to communications, Bluetooth low energy, decision-making systems, that is modifying the smart card behavior, that is all in case of data integrity, information privacy, another important issue. So there are so many attacks, so many issues, real challenge remain in these systems. This webinar are the second kind of CDAC organized. It's a very important seminars, webinars, and everyone put attention so that something can be taken away from this, and we can at least aware that whatever system we are carrying, that is having whichever security loopholes and how to patch up, that is minimum, and we can contribute to our nation building, that our need of the day, which ISCA is looking into it in the phase 3 to look into that IoT related or IoT specific, machine learning specific, use of machine learning and IoT and others, how proof of concept, minimum viable products or innovations we can do in line of the our Indian requirement. Hope this associated with ISCA as well as building our nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sukumar Nandi, sir, for giving an insight on the need for IoT security and the challenges faced. Thank you for highlighting on advanced technologies like 5G, AI, and ML security, etc. Thank you, sir. We shall now have the inaugural address by Dr. R. Chidambaram, sir, Honorary Chairman, School for Advanced Studies in Nuclear Science and Technology, and former PSA to the Government of India. It's a great pleasure to have Dr. R. Chidambaram sir with us. Let me introduce sir. Dr. R. Chidambaram is an Indian physicist who is known for his integral role in India's nuclear weapons program. He coordinated test preparation for the Pokhran-1 in 1975 and Pokhran-2 in 1998. We celebrate the National Technology Day on 11th of May every year to commemorate the series of nuclear tests which were carried out at Pokhran, Rajasthan. Dr. Chidambaram served as the director of the Bhabha Atomic Research Center and later as chairman, Atomic Energy Commission of the Government of India, and he contributed in providing national defense and energy security to India. Dr. Chidambaram was the chairman of the Board of Governors of the International Atomic Energy Agency during 1994-1995. He was also a member of the Commission of Eminent Persons appointed by the Director General, IAEA, in 2008 to prepare a report on the role of IAEA to 2020 and beyond. Dr. Chidambaram was the principal scientific advisor to the Government of India and chairman of the Scientific Advisory to the Cabinet of the Federal Government. The Indian government acknowledged his contribution to the successful nuclear tests by awarding the Padma Shri, the fourth highest civilian honor of the nation, in 1975, and Padma Vibhushan, the second highest civilian honor, in 1999. It's an honor to have you here, sir. I kindly request Honorable Dr. Chidambaram, sir, Honorary Chairman, School for Advanced Studies in Nuclear Science and Technology, and our beloved former President SETS, and our former PSC to the Government of India to deliver the inaugural address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Renita, for a kind introduction. Dr. Sarichandra Babu, Dr. Sukumar Nandi, Dr. S.D. Sudarshan, Ms. Suganya, participants in this webinar, and friends. I'm very happy that SETS and CDAC have organized this very important seminar, this topic of IoT security. I'm grateful to Sarath for inviting me to the inaugural function. This is, can I have the slides, please?
Sir, can you please enable sharing, sir?
Just a minute, we are doing that. No, ask it please. No, now you can share. Yeah, it's visible.
This is very interesting and exciting field. As I've always said, connectivity is important for increasing. Can't you? The side one can be blank out this side. I've always said connectivity is essential, obviously, for increasing interactions in every field, and it's very convenient. But every time you connect to somebody, you are vulnerable, security-wise. So I've always also said the greatest security is in isolation, but today that's not possible. The Internet of Things is now growing exponentially. I'm told that even in 2020, a couple of years back, most US households had access to an average of 10 connected devices. 10 minutes before reaching home, you switch off your microwave oven, or switch on your light, switch on your air conditioning. India, of course, is much less. But then if somebody doesn't like you, he'll switch on your microwave oven 10 minutes after you left your house. And by the time you will get home, you will have only ashes to. And of course, there are even more dangerous things one can do, provided you can cut into the connectivity. That's why the importance of Internet of Things coming. And we must have secure IoT ecosystems in India. And it's growing in India, though we are nowhere as connected as the United States is. And within them, within this IoT ecosystem, the devices and services should have trusted identities. And IoT security needs are enhanced because, as Sarath also mentioned, the attack surface is very large for IT for threats. And of course, threats are there in every kind of network. But this surface of IoT is very wide. And that there are insecure practices among users and organizations. People don't change their passwords for years. Not that I'm also not guilty, but by and large, you have been told again, and that's the simplest one. And don't use your birthday, your wife's birthday, your daughter's birthday. You think you are smarter, put it upside down. But those are all things which the attacker takes care on the first run. Like Richard Feynman, in the Manhattan days, he used to open everybody's secure cupboard. No, that is the first time, 1940s. The number got with this what do you call, the British type of things had come in their country. And people used to post their secure documents there. And they didn't want to forget the number, so they will put all these familiar numbers. You're a mathematician, you put pi or some other fundamental constant. So you try all that, and Richard Feynman writes, 90% of everybody's Almira he could open. Only 10% he had to hear, because these were all lever devices in those days. Listen, and he could open them also. And this fellow goes and sees the document is missing. Next day, it says, thank you very much, and put it back where it was. Of course, now we think we are much more secure. And the purpose of this seminar is we must do more to protect our IoT ecosystem. Next page. Next page. Down, page down. Down, page down. Do it from here. See this if you look at the IoT applications, they are widespread. You look at traffic management, smart lighting on streets, pollution monitoring, wearable smart devices. People wear it, people who are vulnerable. And the doctor can just see the data. But that information is through IoT only. Smart grids, smart farming, smart irrigation, so on and so forth, manufacturing industry, disaster management. And each one of them has its own security issues, depending on the type of applications. But apart from the major common ones for all these applications. Energy sector, one of the biggest applications of IoT is in the energy sector. Because people must get energy, and if excess energy, it must be wheeled out. Particularly when you have intermittent sources of energy like solar or wind. And many innovative applications of IoT have come in this. In microgrids, smart grids. So if you have all them, not only do the users save energy, but it also helps to direct energy wherever required. And also you can use these predictive protocols to minimize distribution bottlenecks. Sometimes you don't have this kind of system, smart system, then you can create energy bottlenecks. Think something or other wrong. Sit. Skip. You sit here. No, I was joking. I'll be careful. See, I don't want to give a long talk, but as I see, and I've looked at this, these are the main IoT security issues. Look at vulnerabilities. One of the main reasons why IoT devices are vulnerable because they lack the computational capacity for built-in security. The devices don't have that capacity. Otherwise, the devices will become very, very expensive. So the users may lack the competence or the budget for testing security of firmware or developing new software. Malware, IoT botnet malware, among the most frequently used ones. Botnet, all of you know, network computers infected by malware and controlled by single attacking party. Then you can have escalated cyber attacks. They are used them for distributed denial of service attacks. Of course, you can have increased information theft, and also exposure. Privacy is a very important issue when you put data on the net, not only from a strategic point of view, but people may not want to know their health data to be exposed to everybody. And this may happen if you store it in these devices which are not properly protected and it's available on the net, and it can be targeted by the attacker. Of course, this is happen everywhere. You don't know how to manage the device mismanagement, poor password hygiene, as I mentioned before, and it can all be helpful to the attacker. Of course, now in the COVID-19 pandemic has worsened the situation because the large scale work from home arrangements, and the more you work from home, the less protection security you get, and they become more vulnerable. Hopefully, the COVID is going away and things will get back to normal. So there are very good security defenses. I'm sure they will all be discussed in detail. The first thing one should do is to change the vendor's default password in any device. Many people don't do that. Keep on using that for a long time, then you are very, very vulnerable. And don't trust the firmware updates. So many times, sometimes I'm also careless. I just say, okay, God alone knows it's coming from the vendor or from somebody who is trying to plant a virus or a worm in your system. Because if you can, and the data deserves it, strong data encryption. And in authentication, two-factor authentication, biometric in addition to passwords. See, that's what somebody was explaining. Layered security is a very interesting concept. Suppose you say in physical security, create a fence. You say there is a 1% chance of anybody breaking in, getting into the fence. Suppose I put 2. See, 0.01 into 0.01 is equal to 1 in 10,000 now. Whereas create a single fence with that kind of security is astronomically expensive. So even in all these IT, if you can do it layered security or whatever is equivalent, then it would help. The two-factor authentication does the same thing. You have biometric in addition to passwords. Finally, ensuring that the IoT network resources and other are constantly monitored for any kind of analysis. See, this is what people who have been given security, they are told, don't follow a pattern. The moment you follow a pattern, you go by the same road, and somebody wants to hit your car, they go by different roads every time. It makes it more difficult for the attacker to. And then, of course, artificial intelligence is also mentioned briefly by Sarah, has been used for the development of complex algorithms to protect networks and systems, including IoT systems. A common method is used for intrusion detection. This is what I have mentioned. Traffic patterns. Traffic in the sense of how the thing is moving around in your network. And looking for an activity that is characteristic of an attack. You know what kind of things you normally do. What is the pattern there? And if you find an anomaly there, there are ways of doing it. But then the problem is the attackers can also use AI to locate and exploit vulnerabilities in their system. In any kind of security, you know the story of Edgar Allan Poe. Shall I tell the story? No, the old story. It's Edgar Allan Poe is a mystery writer. Two young girls, small girls, are playing even or odd. And that girl knows this time she has kept even, next time she will keep odd. But if this girl is smarter than that girl, she is not expecting odd after even. I'll put even after even. If that girl is smarter than this girl, oh, that should have worked out. But if this girl is smarter than that, same way happens in the cyber attacker and the cyber defender. Who is smarter than whom? And this is a continuous process. And there is nothing which is perfectly safe nowadays. Because the resources, whatever method you use, including machine learning and artificial intelligence, and you must remember that the cyber attacker needs to find only one vulnerability, whereas you have to protect yourself on all fronts. The most popular attacks, I'm told, is the man-in-the-middle attack. The MITM attack intercepts communication between two nodes and allows the attacker to take the role of a proxy. It's one of the most difficult things to. I'm sure it will be discussed in your meeting. And once you have got in there, it becomes a platform for other kinds of attacks, like a false data injection attack. It's one of the most common ones. To corrupt the data. Another common attack on IT Ddos is recruiting many devices to create botnets and launch distributed denial of service attacks, which I mentioned, and so on. There is no end to the kind of attacks a smart person cannot find. I think from this is a very nice article. Many of you would have read it by Kristen Gloss. Tech Target came last few months back. Zero trust. Don't trust anybody. It's a bad thing, but then you have to be very careful. If you are into cybersecurity, you can trust. This is what this, when applied to IoT, means network will not automatically trust any device or user that tries to connect to it. Every device or user must have its identity verified and authenticated. Of course, you have your picture as you enter, but this has to go much beyond that. Machine learning, IT administrators might find it impossible to manage IoT without automation and ML, because often there are massive number of IoT devices in deployment, particularly in a large corporate environment. Cryptography, that is your specialty. IT and no data encryption, cryptography can get complicated for IoT. And because they are resource constrained, it's not like a big lab like BARC or something. The person who has a device can be just anybody, but he's a part of, he's a link in the chain. And I notice in your program, you are going to talk about lightweight encryption also in this. This is becoming a more important field. Then segmentation. This is one very useful method. IoT device segmentation, device networks in device groups with policies to limit devices access to data and application. Segmentation serves the same purpose as zero touch, but it's at a slightly higher level to stop the spread of attacks from moving throughout a network. And also, of course, segmentation reduces the network invention. I'm sure this is going to be an excellent meeting. And what Dr. Sarath Chandra Babu has done is to very timely also. Because I think in the next few years, a lot of developments in this field are going to take place. And I'm sure SEPs will be in the forefront in whatever advancements are going to take place. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for volunteering your time to enlightening speech on importance of IoT, importance and AI IoT securities, need of IoT ecosystem production, application of IoTs, and highlighting the IoT security issues, and motivate us by sharing your experience to improve the welfare of the nation. Next, we shall now have a keynote address by Dr. Sudarshan, Executive Director, CDAC Bangalore. It's our pleasure to have Dr. Sudarshan sir here. Dr. Sidhu D. Sudarshan is presently the Executive Director of CDAC Bangalore. He has over a 30 years of research and development experience with leading national research and development agency in India and US. His area of specialization include information assurance, network security, cyber physical system, sensor networks, safety critical systems, semantic mining, and data analytics. He is a recipient of several research grants in the area of information security. Before joining ABB in 2012, Dr. Sudarshan was with US Food and the Drug Administration as a visiting scientist, leading the semantic data mining research and development program, and received the FTDA Outstanding Service Award for his contribution. Dr. Sudarshan has a PhD in Applied Computing from the USA and awarded Outstanding PhD Graduate Award. He has over a 90 publication or presentation to his credit. Prior to joining CDAC, he was with ABB, CEDT, ERDCI, and CRL Bell. Now, I now request Dr. Sudarshan sir to deliver the keynote address. Over to you, sir.
Morning to all of you. The first, I'm very happy to be among the wise people here. And what an honor and privilege to be speaking right after Dr. Chidambaram, Padma Vibhushan of India. And he aptly brought out the importance of not only just being connected, both in IoT concept as well as a human aspect. but being grateful and acknowledge it, everyone, including the one Renita got. So that shows the greatness of the person. And we are always happy to learn from you, sir. You already touched the complete envelope of the cyber security related to IoT. And so nice to see you preparing every slide and come prepared for this event. It was wonderful. I think all of us got benefited, including the 500 plus audience online. And Dr. Sarath, as you mentioned, as being not just, we follow Shistachara. So it always helps to have groups. Like many people say, you don't have to be a tiger. But if you say tiger is my guru, you are taken care in a forest. You know, you remember some of the old stories that we read Panchanandra and all. So in one sense, I'm lucky to have got connected to him, and the relationship is still going strong. And thank you. And Professor Sukumar Nandi highlighted today. Now people don't trust anything unless it is backed by data. So he brought out the ISCA program that is run out of MIT along with CDAC, and the numbers were truly speaking for itself by exceeding the targets. And he also brought out a few key aspects of security, including the issues that we face from a health perspective. And coming back to the people who will follow, from Dr. Sukanya and the entire elite list, they will definitely get into much more detail. And from my side, all I can say is, instead of getting into the larger ambit of IoT, I will probably restrict myself to, just a minute, I will also share the screen. Now I can see the screen. And SETS and CDAC are actually natural partners. In fact, we have a number of projects where we have a common theme of cybersecurity, both in the traditional sense, in the industrial sense, in the HPC part, and also the emerging quantum. In all those areas, we are working together. So as a natural partners, it is also a wise decision to host WISE together. So, today morning, Dr. Chidambaram actually had a look at Paramasphurti, and he was actually saying, oh, it's good to have something for cryptanalysis exclusively for sets. So that natural partnership is going forward. And today, my talk will focus a little bit on the industrial Internet of Things and security. Because it is industrial, I have kept the privacy aspects out. So that makes my talk a little bit more focused. As they say, there is nothing new under the sun. So many of the material are actually derived out of what I read, what I understood. And however, the opinions and comments are my own, but the facts and figures are from what is already done and acknowledged. As mentioned by our chief guest, he did mention about the way industry is moving, and also Professor Nandi mentioned about digital industry 4.4 and on. We have gone a long way from a purely manual industry where humans were doing their job. And today we are somewhere at the automation, where a level of automation is existing. But we expect the IoT, AI, data analytics, cloud to make us completely into an autonomous systems. The fundamental difference between automation and autonomous is the amount of resiliency. Automation can do routine things. Autonomy can actually result in fault recovery, self-correction, self-healing, and self-adoption. So essentially, if a system is autonomous, they don't need support of anybody. Truly, whatever we were seeing in Star Wars and other programs, we expect it to be in real life. So that is where we want to go. If we need to go, one of the fundamental requirements is to have the right industrial IoT systems in place, because they are the sensors. They are going to give the raw data from the field. The moment the input information is not correct or data is incorrect, the entire result is wrong. So, as they say, JUD say, so the JUD is nothing but our IoT part. Nothing can go wrong. If you feed something wrong, the entire plant will either die or it will give results that are not expected. So why I say plant? Because in industry also we call it a plant. And the roots are nothing but process devices. So here actually, if you really look at it, typically when we say IoT, we talk about sensors, actuators with some communication capability. And typical IoT devices are dependent on internet kind of things. Means best effort quality of service. Among available, I will try. If not, I will repeat the typical TCP/IP kind of stack. But the moment you go to industry, there are few fundamental changes. I have highlighted some 3 of them. The first one is guaranteed quality of service. Sir mentioned about a car with a CAN protocol and all. So I cannot apply a brake and hope that the system will recover after roaming and it will break after some time. It has to stop within a given number of microseconds, milliseconds, and a given distance. So this guaranteed hard real-time quality of service. That is one fundamental difference between a traditional IoT and industrial IoT. The next one is availability and uptime. Today we assume electricity is always available. We assume the water flows when I open the tap. We cannot say anymore as a country which is already the, I think, 7th largest economy in the world, saying that the power will be not available for a given period. That is no more acceptable. So any industrial system, the availability and uptime, that becomes extremely important. So 24/7 is to be a given. Otherwise, no question of automation and autonomous. So that is another important difference. In a traditional IoT or any so-called critical system, say if you took a look at a bank, BFSI sector, they can always say every night we will shut down for 4 hours, midnight 12 to 4 to reconcile the transactions. We will agree. Because all the economy is man-created money, so it is just a number, we can wait. But can an industry wait when it comes to supplying water, electricity, air purification? Or during COVID, we knew the challenges of ventilators. So we know what it means not to have something or non-availability or a downtime. That too unplanned downtime. So that is a fundamental difference. Then we always talk of security, but in industry, the first one is safety. Security comes after you are safe. I want to ensure that it remains safe using security mechanisms. So the fundamental requirement is safety. Security practices are to ensure safety. So safety takes precedence over the traditional security that we talk in BFSI and other sectors. So these are some of the fundamental defining differences with respect to IoT and industrial IoT. Of course, in terms of raw device, they are all sensors, actuators. They use the same protocols, same communication. So to that extent, there is a commonality. So why is it important? Or is it so important that we need to have a separate dedicated effort for this compared to traditional IoT is the next question. So in my opinion, some of the points given here should give the answer by itself. The first and foremost is any industrial IoT stuff can cause physical damage. If a financial thing is hijacked, some bank balance number will change. Materially, there is nothing has changed on ground. I can correct it again. But something physically damaged, absolutely we cannot recover. There is always some entropy that can never be redone once something happens. So we have many cases, including the famous Iran nuclear plant, what happened with that and all. Stuxnet, as they call it. So physical damage is something that is imminent when it comes to industrial IoT. So because it is physical, it can result in possible loss of life. And you know, the most precious thing on earth is life. Jaan hai to jahan hai. That is what people say. So it is very important to ensure that humans and other lives are saved. So in the industrial plant, we cannot afford to compromise them. Of course, any damage results in financial loss, which is traditional with IoT as well. The other aspect of industry is it's all about trade secret. Everybody knows each restaurant. We go each restaurant for a different kind of food. There are people who will have idli in one place, vada in another place, aloo paratha in place, lacha paratha in another place. Because the recipe, the way it is made, though ingredients are identical, it's very important. If it can be copied, then my business is gone. So leakage and loss of trade secrecy, because we are talking about industry. So the brand is created based on certain value systems, certain taste, certain kind of quality that they provide. So that is extremely critical. And of course, any compromise, today we talk of reputation and goodwill, and we can see stock markets crashing one way up or down, or they can gaining depending on what happens whenever there is a compromise. So industrial IoT is much more important than traditional IoT because of these additional aspects of physical damage, loss of life, and the trade secrecy part. So there was a discussion that happened when Sir had just landed, Dr. Chidambaram, we were walking. Is cloud security, IoT security, are they related, or how are they? And I think that is a very, very pertinent point for discussion. Not that he doesn't know the answer, he was actually instigating us to think through, because youngsters need that prodding. Otherwise, we get used to our routine job. So if you really look at it, today analytics or optimization in an industrial system happens at 3 levels. On the plant or at the field, we call it edge analytics. It has to happen locally because the decisions have to come instantly, immediately. There is no time delay possible. In the automobile case, it's applying a brake. I cannot wait for something to go to cloud, decide whether to apply brake or what kind of brake I should apply and things like that. No, it should be instant. So that has to happen locally. So there we need a smart control at the edge. The entire action should happen there. Time is of critical value. Then there are things we are looking at, smart operations at a hybrid level. Maybe if you look at a traffic analysis, how 2-3 intersections are interconnected, so that I look at the pattern here and accordingly reroute the traffic for local optimization. So in industry, we call it plant level optimization. So that any production line, there is some problem with one machine, I should be able to re-optimize. So that happens probably at a local level. Then how do you optimize globally? That comes at the cloud. Okay. There we are looking at monitoring over a period, doing transfer learning, all kind of AI techniques and machine learning techniques to find out golden parameters, what can be replicated. If you replicated certain stuff, why it is not working, what is the thing that was different from the source, so that can be taken care of. So if you really look at it, the edge looks at hard real-time part. The hybrid looks at maybe 10x, 20x of the time frame. Cloud can be, it can be even years, because we are looking at a climatic model. We are looking at a sunspot cycle. We are looking at dozens of years. So cloud can be large enough. But looking from industrial IoT, it is the edge where we need to focus. Anything above traditional IoT cybersecurity can handle that part. You can put few additional constraints. A typical IoT device, if you see here, actually the last point was on segmentation from Dr. Chidambaram. So here, if you look at this is how we segment the industrial layer. Level 0 and 1 are the places where process happens on field. Real physical parameter is measured or controlled. And the time is hard real time, so typically we don't encrypt. Probably it is a overkill. For example, if I say the temperature is 27 degrees, even if I encrypt it, we are adding overhead, and decryption adds another overhead, which means my hard real time constraints are violated. The second thing is these devices are typically purely segmented into layer 2. They don't have IP address typically. So they are already segmented locally. So to that extent, they are protected. Some IP layer device with an IP only has to take care where encryption, decryption, all the security can be taken care. So given this, the layering has already happened. The encryption, decryption option can be kept out. It is about the integrity of the measurement and the availability of the measurement. That is what matters in terms of priority. And even if I encrypt, if someone is standing there physically near to the process, because there is no IP, they have to depend on an IP layer, which the sensor will not give. It has to connect to a edge or gateway before it can come out. So the only way I can access some other device has to be there, or I have to be there. If I am at the process place, I can also measure myself. So encryption or other things, overheads, really do not matter in a real industrial sense. Of course, we can always save it as a wish list, as a theoretical limit, but in practice, it is not done. The encryption, decryption all start one level above. So process 0 and 1, level 0, 1, there things are about, measure. We are more about the calibration of the device, the offset, the drift. It is the integrity of the sensor or the actuator. They are being addressed by certain consortia like field device integration, OPC. There are so many standardization activities going on. That is taken care of. Above that, traditional IT or IoT can take care of it. So maybe I've already spoken in terms of data analytics, we are not touching, so it's just there. So, before we close, few things you may want to note with respect to industrial IoT. Each of them by itself can result in a great startup or an excellent solution, multiple PhD theses. The first thing to notice in an industrial setting, it is a very noisy environment. There is heat, there is vibration, there is noise. You think of a vessel in the sea, it has all kind of oscillations and the ionization and so many things that come into picture. In a typical industry, in a shop floor, go to a steel mill, anything that is moving is probably above 100 degrees Celsius. And your device has to work, sensor has to work, that to 24/7. And some of them are maybe a molten metal at 900 degrees Celsius. So it is a very noisy environment. Traditional IoT devices and their so-called hardening will not work. So we have to look into how do we handle the noise, particularly when you want to communicate. Wired zone has a positive thing and negative thing because you need limited space, you need that kind of controlled wiring, which is hardened and which can withstand all these rigors of the industrial setting. But wiring actually makes things very inflexible in an industry because I cannot rewire at will. So people are looking at, can you make it wireless? So there are industrial mesh standards available for that. But when you create a mesh, it becomes messy because now we are adding more wireless signals. And we have multiple connectivity from one sensor because it is a mesh network. So mesh creates a mess. So how do you handle the traditional EMI, EMC related RF noises? So the noisy environment gives an excellent opportunity to work on many things. Then in industry, it's all about return on investment. Are you profitable? So operational cost and total cost of ownership. Every penny matters. It is not smartphone for the sake of smartphone. It is not for show off. there should be raw numbers to show it is profitable. Otherwise, no customer is going to keep us alive. So we have to always look at the cost aspect. The trade secrecy I also already mentioned. If somebody can trace exactly how donut is made in a particular place, I can replicate it. So though at a sensor level, we are not looking at encryption, decryption, at a process level, it matters a lot. Then life. Traditional IoT devices, we talk of 1 year, 2 year, 18 months, 24 months. Most of the industrial systems are almost like military systems. They live 20 years, 30 years, 45 years. Today, you go to any of the hydro plants, they were set up in 1960s, they are still running. So how do we support with upgraded technology with a device that has nothing to do with it? This is one aspect. Actually, if you crack this, you are not only supporting industry, you are also supporting complete military kind of requirement. So defense also taken care of. And if something similar can come to space, because we cannot keep on replacing the satellite. Instead of 7 years, if I can keep my satellite alive 30 years, that will be a wonder. So can we do it? So how do we have the extended time? Then how do you do updates and upgrades? Because they are 30, 40 years on field, the generation of technologies are many. So we'll have traditional, needle-based meters, analog meters, and all the way up to the current one, which are very, very digitized. How do we make a mix and match and still provide the security and operations? And as I mentioned, the given cost is important. How do you train the operators to maintain this much? So the mixed generation technologies is something we should be looking at. That way, sometimes we should be happy if there are challenges with funds and we are not able to procure latest equipment. Because then we are forced with it what we have and partially new, partially old. So we become frugally innovative. That is what our Mangalyaan achieved at a very low cost. So the mixed generation technologies related activities, how do you make generation 0 to generation 5 work with each other? And what kind of bridges we can create and still provide the security? That is one part. The IT OT control, where does OT and the operational technology, where does IT start? So the first picture I very simply told, from plant level, you can become IT. Below that, you can consider OT. But between edge and plant, it is not just a discrete stuff. It can be in multiple levels depending on the complexity. So at what point we stop the industrial IoT part and then look into the traditional IoT and cybersecurity aspect? So that is where we are looking at fog, all those kind of things. But then there are a few good things also. Typically, the sensor connects to the nearest device, that is IP or that is a gateway. So you are looking at a single hop most of the time, and the connectivity is right. So that gives your desire. As an engineer, you are very happy. I don't have to deal with an obstacle that is blocking me, or a reflection that is not allowing me, interference that is going to create problems for me. Those are the things. And mostly real time are not encrypted. So you can get rid of one major element of the processing part. And the data is typically time series and oblique or event driven. So we don't have too much of heterogeneous data. Maybe one-time configuration is fine, but the plant is running, it is going to measure temperature every certain number of seconds or minutes. Or if there is a threshold violated, it is going to give a notification, only two parts. So you can actually derive beautiful algorithms that work only on these kind of things. The traffic is very predictable and mostly transient. You don't want to store the entire data. You want to store only summary data. So that way, the big data can be actually scaled down to a reasonable amount. These are the things to note. But if you achieve all that, what happens? Essentially, it reduces the cost and sustains the business because we are able to generate multiple technologies over generations. So life gets extended, uptime goes up. Main part is the unplanned downtime is less because as we gather data at a higher level, we can actually do predictive maintenance. And we can eliminate unwanted maintenance and we can get the window upfront to maintain things. It improves resource utilization, almost like the way we rotate the 4 tires in the stepney in the car. It enables you remote operations because if everything is connected and it can be seen remotely, operators need not risk their life at the plant. Think of a nuclear plant, think of a coal mine where it is very dusty. I did visit one coal plant. I understand that it was a shock to me when they said, we have very few cases of medical claim post-retirement. I said, how come they are so healthy? The answer was, no, they are not healthy. Most of them die before they are 60 because they inhale the dust throughout their life. So that was a shock to me in 2002 when I actually visited a coal mine. So that forces me to think, how can we enable remote operations for such places so that people can live their life full and happily. So it enables remote operations. So we can come with good IoT cases. Multi-level optimization becomes feasible, and we can ultimately reach autonomous to automation to autonomous operations. Probably that will be digital industry or industry 5.0, and that can bring the new generation of society where everyone is white collar. We will not have any blue collar or gray collar. That is the day we can look forward to as engineers, as part of this being WISE. I urge all of you to look into this aspect and contribute. And I hope I touched a few points. Many of you may be knowing all of this. I thought this is something we need to highlight in a kind of a summarized fashion within the limited time. With that, I thank each one of you, and very special thanks to Dr. Sarath for giving me an opportunity to be meeting once again, that too in the presence of none other than Dr. Chidambaram. And thank you, CDAC and all the participants. You have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sudarshan sir, for an enlightening talk on industrial IoT and the need for IoT security. Your insight on edge analytics, data analytics on IIoT were really thought-provoking. Once again, thank you, sir. May I kindly request our Executive Director to present a memento to the dignitaries. May I kindly request Dr. Chidambaram sir to present a memento to Dr. Sharath sir. I kindly request Chidambaram sir to present a memento to Suganya ma'am. Thank you, sir. We have come to the end of the inauguration function. I would like to invite Ms. Sukanya ma'am, Senior Scientist and Head of Hardware Security Research Group SETS, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good morning, all. And I take this opportunity to express our sincere thanks to our Chief Guest of Honor, Dr. R. Chidambaram, sir, for presiding over this workshop and delivering the inaugural address. And your presence today in this workshop has immensely enhanced its importance, sir. I would like to thank our keynote speaker, Dr. S.D. Sudarshan, sir, for insightful keynote address. Thank you for your very interesting and thought-provoking address, sir, on industrial IoT security. So I thank Dr. Sukumar Nandi, sir, from IIT Guwahati for sharing the achievements of ISEA and also sharing the importance of IoT security. I would like to thank our Executive Director, Dr. Sarat, for his guidance and contributions in this workshop. I would like to thank our distinguished speakers, so Professor John Jose, IIT Guwahati, Mr. Vivek Mishra, founder, Magellan Innovation Private Limited, Mr. Suresh Chandra, Director, STQC, and speakers from CDAC and SETS, who have accepted to deliver the talk in this workshop. I thank the workshop coordinators, Mr. R. Hari Prasad from SETS and Dr. Srikanth from CDAC, for organizing the workshop in a nice way. I would also like to thank all admin people, especially mention Dr. Nageshwar Rao, who has been working backside of the workshop for their support and providing excellent facilities for the workshop. And finally, the workshop will not be complete without the participants. Thank you very much for showing your interest to participate in this workshop. And I assure the rest of the sessions is going to be very interesting, and please stay tuned on that. And thank you very much. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, just a vote of thanks. Professor Nandi, it's my pleasure to have you here. Somehow I missed during my initial thing because presence of I think out of now really not there, so it's somehow missed that.
No problem, sir.
We always see you as a mentor and guide to when I was in MIT to today, CDAC to SETS. So I've been interacting with you on many forums. Thank you very much and being with us. And the mementos of the speakers who were on virtual mode will be couriered to them in due course of time. Thank you being with us.
Thank you. Namaskar. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Srikanth. We are continuing. I'm just seeing of Dr. Chidambaram, sir.
Sure, sir. Sure, we'll continue, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Shall we break for 10 minutes now?
We'll break for 10 minutes and start the plan. Yeah. Okay, sir. John Jose, sir, you are there. I think we'll break for 10 minutes and we'll start your session, sir. I think.
No problem, Srikanth. No problem.
No problem.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we are able to hear you, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay. We'll join after 10 minutes at 11:15. Is it okay?
Yeah, sure. 11:15, yes. Sure.
Okay.
Mr. Hariprasad, shall we start? What's the thing?
So Srikanth sir, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, sir. Yes, sir. John Joe, sir,
Okay.
I'm able to hear you, sir. Just a minute, sir.
Yeah,
I
okay.
think I'm waiting for the sets to give a green signal to start. So,
No problem, no problem. Can you hear maybe like if anything slide should I can you ask them to give me slide share content?
yeah, slide share. Yes, sir. Yes, I'll. I think Jagdish sir, you can give sir. Did you get it, sir?
Yeah, yeah. Now I got it.
Yeah. Yeah, Hariprasad, shall we start? What's the thing? Anyone from sets?
Yes, sir, we can start, sir.
We can start. Yeah, great. Yeah, good morning, everyone. I welcome you all back to this webinar on IoT security WISE 2022. So now we have completed the inaugural session. So now we are going to start the talks from the speakers. So just to give you a glimpse of the talks today. So we have the first talk by Dr. John Joes, Associate Professor, IIT Guwahati, where he is going to talk on security challenges in edge and IoT devices. Then we have a talk on drone security by Mr. Vivek Mishra. Vivek Mishra is the president of Myelin Innovation Private Limited. Then we have IoT security standards by Mr. Suresh Chandra, Director STQC. Then we have we'll break for the lunch. And then we have the lightweight cryptography for IoT security by Dr. Prem Lakshman Das, Senior Scientist SETS. Then we have security framework for IoT devices by Ms. Nalini, project scientist SETS. Then you have IoT penetration testing, that's by me, Dr. S.P. Shrikant, Joint Director, CDAC, Hyderabad. Then my colleagues will be talking on exploitation of radio communication protocols, Wi-Fi and BLE by two of my colleagues, Mr. Amalraj PC and Mr. Mirza. And later we have drone cyber security target and threat by Mr. Hari Prasad, scientist sets. And the final talk will be Internet Key Exchange for IoT, that is IKE for IoT by Mr. Vishnu Praveen, Project Associate sets. And finally, we have the closing remarks for today. So let me take this privilege to introduce our first speaker of today's webinar on IoT security WISE 2022. The title is Security Challenges in Edge and IoT Devices by Mr. Dr. John Joes, Associate Professor, IIT Guwahati. So let me introduce him. So Dr. John Joes is an Associate Professor in Department of Computer Science and Engineering, IIT Guwahati, where he joined as an assistant professor in 2015. He completed his PhD from IIT Madras in the field of computer architecture. He is a rank holder in MTech from VIT. He has a BTech degree from College of Engineering, Adur, Cochin University, Kerala. He is a recipient of prestigious Qualcomm Faculty Award 2021. He is also serving as the Vice Chair of IEEE India Council. And his research group in multi-core architecture and system labs at IIT Guwahati explores the domain of network on chips, cache management, techniques for large multi-core systems, non-volatile memories, hardware security, domain security, hardware accelerators, and disaggregated storage systems. He's also associated as an editor for IEEE Embedded System Letter Journal. He has over 35 IEEE and ACM peer-reviewed conference publications, over 15 ACM and IEEE transactions, as well as Springer and Elsevier journal papers to his credit. He's a reviewer of many national and international peer-reviewed journals and a member of technical program committee and organizing committee for many IEEE and ACM and national and international conferences. So this is about sir. Sir, I request you all, I request you, sir, to take up the podium and talk about security challenges in edge and IoT devices. It's over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Srikanth. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, it's audible, sir. Please, you can.
Srikanth, can you tell me how much time is there for me?
Sir, I think it's already 11:20. I think you can take up around half an hour, sir, because your time is till 11:45. So around half an hour, if you can.
Yeah, fine.
So,
Okay.
5 minutes here and there you can spill over, sir. Yes.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. I'll stick to the time. So thank you, Srikanth, for the invite given to me. I have interacted with his team and CDAC people over many ISEA workshops we have conducted on the length and breadth of the country. So I congratulate the organizers for a widely power-packed program. I was looking at the profile of the speakers as well as the title, which give a good range to the audience, those who wanted to explore in the IoT field and especially on security of the IoT. So this is going to be the outline. So I hope my slides are viewable, correct?
Yes, sir. It's a viewable and it's moving also. Not a problem. Yes.
Okay, fine. So the outline is like this. I'll just a couple of minutes I'll take to introduce. Anyway, some of the previous speakers who spoke in the inaugural session, they talked about IoT, but I know that some of the participants may be from students from colleges and from young engineers. So some of them may not be completely well versed in this topic. So I will start from little scratch for those who are in the beginning of the session. And the role of edge computing is what I will be specifically focusing on, and then followed by vulnerabilities in edge computing. And then let's talk about some of the important attacks where I'll focusing on DDoS attacks, side channel attacks, malware injection, and then I will conclude at the end. So the term is IoT is now very common to each and everyone. But just to understand, if you try to connect a computing device or a data capturing device or a processing device over the internet, it can be ranging from industrial applications to medical to agricultural, in building, commercial, so customer service, whatever be it, any device, anybody, anywhere, across any network at any time. So it's a system of interconnected devices that collect data from surrounding environment to enable increased reactivity and responsiveness. These data help us make better and informed decisions. Even if you look into using an ATM card inside a bank's ATM center, that itself is an IoT application where you go with a card. The card has some data, some authorization, authentication happens. You insert into it, and then from the point of the ATM machine, some data is moving, some verification happens at the bank end, and accordingly transfer or withdrawal of money, account balance update, everything is going to happen. So the IoT has grown over the years a lot, right from a connected consumer, what you see, it happened maybe 10 or 15 years before, where we had ATM cards, mobile payments, to smart homes where some of our appliances inside the home are now connected to internet and we can control from any place in the world, to smart transportation, something like our traffic signals slowly moving into traffic-based green, red. So normally we have timer-based in various places, like if you have a 4 junction across all the 4 directions, there's a specific time that is given for green color to glow and then the red. So what if it is based on vehicle density? So morning maybe from north to south maybe more traffic, evening it may be from the city back, like that. And similarly, like some of our previous speakers already mentioned about street lights without an on-off switch based upon the illuminance at that point, based upon the sunlight, whether it is dark or not, it can be turned on. We are slowly moving into smart cities and smart industry. So IoT has a huge potential in impacting the quality of life that we are all going to have in the next few decades. Now, the heart of this IoT is something like a cloud, wherein the actual processing happens. So we have your IoT devices, the wearable devices, and then we have something in between which will process these. I think your Wi-Fi router can be one, or your computer can be one. So the actual processing happens in the backend, in the cloud, where we call it as big data processing, your data warehouses or your servers, data centers and all. So it is like from a low-end distributed IoT devices like smart devices, smart vehicles, connected system and all. It's all the way populating into the cloud. Cloud will do it and then give it back. For example, let's say we are going to put a navigator inside your mobile phone, and then you wanted to travel from one place to another. So mobile phone is the IoT device from which the GPS position of the driver is being tracked. And then you are going to upload your movement and many other things. And accordingly, it has been processed in the Google Cloud. And so the real-time data, or the real-time traffic of the place that you are going is getting downloaded into the IoT device, and accordingly the decisions is being shown. So your phone is basically a display device and little bit of capturing, and the actual processing, where to go, what should be the direction in which it has to go. Everything is processed in the cloud and it is been coming. Now understand, you have many such workloads that is been moving, and you need to have a reliable connection, a very high speed connection between all these workloads over and then going all the way into the Google server. So the amount of bandwidth required is going to be very high, and you need to have very fast, powerful servers that need to process all these requests. So over the years, now people start thinking, why should I push everything into the cloud? Can I do something at the edge? Edge is something that stands in between. So that is the focus of today's talk is how can you secure edge? Okay, so the IoT devices, sometimes there can be some kind of security measure, and of course cloud is well secured. But recently emerged field is called the edge. So edge computing allows data from Internet of Things devices to be analyzed at the edge of the network before being sent to data center or a cloud. So you can see that on the right side, the diagram that you can see. So you have your edge that is here, the IoT devices, it is coming to edge. Now you can take a call. Should I process it and send back the services back to IoT, or should I send it to the cloud? So we have the cloud infrastructure, which is the backend. We have the edge infrastructure, which is the connectivity devices, and we have the IoT infrastructure that is there. So everything what we talk about is all about some kind of a data sensing that happens, connectivity, processing, safety, and security. Let me talk about a very important IoT application that we all are aware. Our national highways, where the toll gates, where now your FASTag card is must. Without that, you are going to pay extra fine. So we assume that, let's say we go there and your card RFID value is being read from the FASTag in your car. It is connected to a bank account. From that bank account, money is being transferred into the contractor who have taken the agency of that particular toll booth. What guarantee you have? Let's say the toll is 50 rupees. What guarantee you have that if it is more than 50, is it more than 50 that is going out? Let's say it is charging 51. So you may feel it's only 1 rupee that is there. What if there is a security vulnerability in the reading where somebody else's car is going, whereas your car number is being recorded and money is going to be getting deducted? And then you may have to chase behind the customer care and give complaints in many places. So people can play around with many things when this kind of situation happens. And these are all devices, sensors, which are of very low cost in nature, and there can be potential chances of vulnerability. So let me come to this, that is a centralized versus edge intelligence. So when you do everything, whatever you see in this green color is called the processing. So when the processing is being done in the cloud, we call it as a centralized intelligence. Everyone else is capturing data from mobile phones, it reaches the base station, from base station it is connected to the backend cloud. So all processing happens here, whereas in the case of an edge computing, many lower devices also are going to perform some. So consider the case that I am going to make a call to someone, let's say to call to Srikanth, and imagine we both are under the same tower in the locations of Hyderabad. Okay. So in that case, what happens is I come from Guwahati, from Assam circle. Let's say I am there. What if I make a call to Srikanth and then there is some kind of an intelligence? So normally what happens from the base station, it goes all the way to backend system. Let's say I'm using Airtel connection, it goes to the backend server in Airtel. And then they will find out where is the location of Srikanth, and accordingly the call gets forwarded to him through the appropriate base station. So there is a lot of processing that happens in the cloud when we make any cellular network call. That will overburden the cloud, and the amount of data that is going to handle and the amount of data that is being transmitted across also increases tremendously. Now what I'm trying to say here is, what if your base station can understand that if me and Srikanth are under the same base station, so without doing anything in the cloud, I can forward. So that means you need to have some kind of an intelligence that is available in the cell phone tower, which we call it as base station. If the source and destination is under the same, I can bypass and forward, and appropriately log entries can be made in the background. So this base station typically acts as an edge device. Now, can I increase the capability of the edge? That is what is known as edge computing. So similarly, I am going to make a WhatsApp chat that is going to be done by my friend. Let's say I'm going to send it from here to my friend. Let's say we both are under the same Wi-Fi access point. Can the Wi-Fi router become more intelligent such that I can send these messages and then in the backend I can update with the WhatsApp? So this is going to be the future. We are thinking more about increasing the computational capability of the edges. So the edge is nothing but these are devices which which are in between the IoT devices or the end device and which are in the cloud. So we need to have a good data collection mechanism in the edge, some data processing mechanism in the edge, and depending upon a case by case, sometimes I may have to provide the users with the necessary service that is being required. Now, let me come to a point like how these edges are prone to attacks. So consider the case that you wanted to buy a Wi-Fi router in your home. You go and see 2-3 models of Wi-Fi router that is available in the market. Then you see some of them are 2,000, 3,000 and 5,000 rupees. And generally you will go for the cheapest one that you get. You are able to get good reliable connectivity. Now, we believe this Wi-Fi router, what you have. This is basically an edge device. For your cell phone is connected, your TV is connected. So TV, a smart TV is an IoT device, your cell phone is an IoT device, whereas your Wi-Fi router that is being kept, which transmit the signal across your home with a backend network, is actually an edge device. What guarantee you have that this particular edge device is satisfying all the security protocols? You are making a transaction, an online transaction, wherein your credit card number is being updated. Is this edge device doing some extra processing on it? What guarantee is that it is safe? What if it has a Trojan inside and then it is going to store some amount of data inside it? And let's say after a few days you come to know there is your Wi-Fi router is not working. So then you give it for service, and then they're telling since for the first 1 year it's a free replacement warranty, they will give it something else. But already your corrupted data is being gone. I would like to draw your attention that is something that happened during in Second World War, where the Xerox machine that was kept in Russia, and there were the classified documents that was being taken at the ministry level at the president's palace. Some of the documents that was Xeroxed, every document that was Xeroxed, a copy is being kept in a small memory that was kept inside. For example, you are going to store something. You think of a case. Okay, this happened in the recent Vietnam War also. Now think of a case that after some time, you experience some kind of a technical error in the equipment, and the service person will come and fix the equipment. What if all the data that is been already Xeroxed is been taken out? Think of a case in India setup. Let's say you're having a Xerox machine that is being taken in government of India in some ministry level. The Xerox machine, lot of documents Xerox is being taken, a copy of that. What if it gets saved? During the warranty period, if something goes wrong, you call the vendor and come to replace, and the vendor come and replace it. What if there is a malicious intention of keeping a small memory which will take a copy of all the document that is being Xerox? Many highly confidential documents are now leaked to another third-party company, which they can sell to our neighbor country for crores of money. So we never know what is the kind of security vulnerability that is going to face to us. So today I am going to talk about some of the possible security threats that we have, and the 4 types of attacks that I'm going to talk: DDoS attack, side channel attack, malware injection attack, and authorization and authentication attack. And this statistic shows out of the kind of attacks that IoT and edge devices face, what is the reasonable percentage? Close to 1 in every 4 attacks that you have in the cybersecurity space, considering edge devices, is from distributed denial of service attack. And then the graph, the pie chart shows quarter of them is malware injection attack. Let us try to understand what is DDoS attack. So when you buy IoT devices or edge devices which are of cheaper quality, we call it as rogue IoT devices. Now, rather than sending genuine data, they themselves, for example, you are going to read a car's number, and your car's number is been traveling, and somebody else's car's number is being recorded, and accordingly the FASTag value is being got, and in the toll booth somebody else is being billed. So a rogue IoT device is something which will send a wrong data. Let's say you are using a simple barcode reader in a supermarket. You are going to buy 1 kilogram of dal. Now the barcode reads like that, but then actually the device, let's say the dal is only 30 rupees, and the device is actually billing for something which is of 100 rupees. Let's say rather than dal, then you are going to take it for some sugar which is costly. So when you are in a supermarket, sometimes you buy so many things, you are in a queue, you may not really looking at the profile of the guests. You are buying for 10,000 rupees for each shopping. So this 30 rupee dal and 100 rupee sugar, you don't care. You may see it only after coming home, or we sometimes won't even look at the bill at all. You will make the payment hoping that since it is computerized, everything is perfect. So I read dal, but actually into the billing system, it is going it as sugar. For a 30 rupee item, 100 rupees getting charged. It can be because of a rogue IoT device intentionally kept in the supermarket, or the supermarket guy doesn't know it is happening and the remaining money is coming accordingly. So these rogue IoT devices can actually create a denial of service. So let me try to make you understand what is denial of service. It's a very common kind of attack. So since some of you may be students, I'll try to put an analogy here. A and B are very good friends. Okay. Now C also wanted the friendship of B. But whenever C goes to B, always A is there. So C doesn't like it. C is little jealous of A because A and B are very good friends. At the same time, C wanted to block access of A to B. So C go and ask some doubt to B. Can you help me? Can I work with assignments together? So whenever A try to access B, B is telling that I'm helping C with an assignment. I'm helping B with the homework. So you come later. So the access of A towards B is being intentionally delayed or prevented by a malicious intention of C. So think of a case that I wanted to book a air ticket through Indigo's portal, for example. I wanted to book through Indigo's portal. Now I wanted to travel from Delhi to Madras. So from Delhi to Chennai, and I'm looking at Indigo's portal and I'm trying to book, and then it's experiencing delay. Why the delay? Because there are so many of these requests coming to Indigo's portal for booking. And imagine 90% of these requests are fake requests sent by rogue IoT devices, as if lot many bots or lot many spam programs will try to book into the system by searching Delhi to Chennai, and then all things will be going up to the payment. So that when there are so many requests, my requests automatically getting delayed. And then you feel that there is an unnecessary delay in processing of Indigo. Let me know. Let me not go to Indigo. Let me go to SpiceJet. Let me go to Jet Airways or Air India, some other thing. So because there is lot of artificial request that is being coming into one of the server, a genuine user is not able to get its service. So this is called denial of service. So by a peer company, I can deploy someone as my employee and ask him to flood my competitors or peer groups server with the artificial request, such that a genuine user should feel that booking something from my peer is very difficult, so that they should come to me. So all this happens because of unhealthy competition that is there. So these rogue devices can flood your targeted server by ICMP packets or sync packets or HTTP packets, or even ping to death packets or UDP flooding. So those who are familiar with the networks, you can explore this. That's why I'm giving the work that has been published in this from a Chinese research group. So this flooding is one of the popular way in which you perform distributed denial of service attack, which recently we noticed in some of the supermarkets that I told this dal and sugar example. So how do you detect it? You may have extra security feature that has to be embedded in your edge devices. Your edge devices are typically very cheap. So when you add up extra security, either it may consume more power or it may become more costly, and then it becomes less economical. So people generally buy products based upon the economy as well. So you may not be looking into something like it's a highly secure edge device, then we have to pay another 10,000 rupees more. So the growing vulnerability like that, because these edge devices are sometimes manufactured in a very short span of time. The aggressive competition between peers and the very rigid time constraints for marketing a device, apart from design, many of these edge devices or IoT devices may not go for a rigorous checking. So if at all there is any security vulnerability that is there, since we are not putting enough manpower for performing a proof check, a full fault-proof checking, it may become difficult. And there can be many such bugs that is called as zero-day bugs. The reason is there can be many bugs in the design, which will be exposed only if you do a thorough testing. But since you reduce the number of man-hours for testing, because you want to reduce the price of the product, and moreover, you have to hit the market as early as possible. So because your rival company is coming with a product, so if you are not going to come up with a similar product, the rival company will take up the whole of the market and you will be left with nothing. So because of this aggressive competition, many of the gadgets that come into market are not properly checked. So security vulnerabilities that could have potentially existing by use of untrusted third-party IPs or by outsourcing many of the fabrication process outside will all may not be detected because of the design flaw and lack of proper testing. Now the second one is known as a side channel attack. So side channel attack is nothing but, let's think of a case that you happen to run a counseling, you are an employee in a counseling service. Okay, so your boss is giving counseling to people, management, everything. Think of a case that you happen to hear a quarrel between the husband and wife in your adjacent quarters, in your adjacent home. They are daily quarreling, and after the husband goes, the wife is really sad, stressed out. Now, suddenly, if you happen to know that your neighbor has a stress problem, maybe some family issues, you tell your boss or you tell that, okay, this is a potential customer. You can call these people, and then you share this information to someone, maybe a professional counseling service. And this counseling service will ring this lady and ask, Madam, do you want any help? We offer stress management, family stress management, good relation between family members. It's very cheap, 500 rupees. So how come they come to know there is a potential client here? So this is called side channel attack. You are this particular person who observed the husband and wife are never talking each other. He overheard what is happening. And this overhearing is now a data. There is a potential customer here. You inform the people and then you get this. Similarly, there are a lot of side channel attacks also that happens. So when you go make a shopping, they ask your phone number, you give your phone number, and they will actually send this phone number. They'll put a star. Okay, this person has bought for 15,000 rupees. This person has bought for 3,000 rupees. Now what happened? This phone number is being sold to people who are in the marketing team. So sometimes you may get a call. Do you want a loan? Do you want this? Do you want this? How do they get their number? Because your mobile number, your email ID is in public when you go for shopping. At the end, nowadays, e-bills are coming. So your phone number is being shared. And then many people die. And this happens in schools also. Recently, I happened to hear from one of the school that at the time of making your kid join in the LKG, you have to declare annual salary or annual income of the parents. And then the parents' information is now sent to the marketing team. So the school will get some money. So the marketing team of any new product, let's say they wanted to have a loan, they wanted to sell some loan or anything, they'll contact school and ask, can you give the contact numbers of 100 parents whose annual income is above 15 lakhs? So the school will tell, why should I give? Okay, we will give you 50,000 rupees. So simply sharing a spreadsheet with your name and mail ID, you get 50,000 rupees. Then school will obviously share, and then they will try to call these people. Out of 50 phone calls that you make, 10 of them may agree for the kind of product that you are selling, and your purpose is served. You are achieving your target. So these are all side channel attacks analogies. So what happens here is, depending upon the activity that is going on, sometimes if you do certain operation, the power that is transmitted, maybe it will be, let's say, 20 nanojoules. If you're doing an adding operation, it may be 10 nanojoules. If you're doing a security operation, it may be 100 nanojoules. So by having oscilloscope, you can find out what is the power analysis, how much of the power that is being used or what is the heat radiated. It is proportional to the complexity of the task that is being done, and we can make reasonable conclusion of what is the kind of activity that is being going over there. So when you log in into a portal, you are going to give your login ID and password. The processing of login ID and password will be highly secure. And then whatever that you do, it may not be going through a secure channel. So you understand from the power analysis oscilloscope, beginning of a session, so much power is being so dissipated from the device. That means something very important, very complex task is doing. Then the power level comes down. So somebody who sit on the communication medium, they will be able to understand, okay, very complex operation done. That means this is login ID and password. So whatever now going, this may be actually data. Something like that. There are a lot of work that has been done in this. So since in the interest of shortage of time, I request those who wanted to further then explore, either contact us where we work on this, or we can read this material. So there are attacks which exploit the communication channels. There are attacks which exploit the power consumption. There are attacks which is based on smartphone, because you download certain apps, and some of these apps you give permission to access the gallery and all, because at the time of the excitement of downloading an app, whenever they ask for access, yes, you just tick it, and the app may have access to many files in your phone, and by virtue of it, it can lead to security vulnerability. The next kind of attack is all about malware injection attack. Malwares are small programs which can run on either the IoT device or at the targeted server devices. And you run certain specific code or programs. By virtue of it, at the end, you will get this one stuck. So it can be server-side injection I can run into. So this basically happens because of security vulnerabilities in the edge devices. Because edge devices are of low quality, low cost, no security standardization is there, and like our previous speakers mentioned, there is no legal liability also. Like, what if my Wi-Fi router goes wrong? I cannot go to court and sue him. So the legal framework in the country is is not taking into such kind of security attacks that is caused by products that we bought. So all this happens because we consider edge devices as granted, and we always buy these kind of devices whichever is of low cost. It might not have gone through rigorous security mechanism, and when we try to add up more security features into this, obviously the price will go up, the power consumption will go up, and some of these edge devices you cannot afford consuming that much power because some of them may be operating it on battery. So this is another category of injections that is possible. And the last one is called authentication and authorization attack. And I hope you know what is the difference between authentication and authorization. Authentication, which tell who is accessing, who are you. So when you enter into a system, let's say when I log in into IIT Guwahati network, I get privileges as a faculty, so I can watch certain files. When a student logs in with his mail ID, then he can have access to only some limited resources. So when someone enters with my login name, it is called an authentication attack, because you are breaching, rather than John, someone else is mimicking John. Okay, so that is indeed possible. When you try to log in with somebody else's login ID and password, like people told, passwords are the one that is being kept in the most easiest way. And authorization means after you become, so after you log in, let's say I am supposed to access only ABC files. What if I try to access D, which you are not supposed to do, by virtue of vulnerability that is available in the software suite? That is known as authorization attack. So many authentication and authorization attacks are also now targeting someone else is entering into system, imitating it as somebody. So what do you do? If you know that your PIN is 4-digit, I can try with a dictionary attack. Dictionary attack means I try with set of all possible words. Simple thing. In an ATM, what could be the maximum possible passwords option that you have? 4 digits. So it is 9999 is the total number of possibilities it is there. So every day, if you can do 100 of them, then in 90 days, you can guess what the password is. So dictionary attack is you try to send in passwords which are potentially possible to the guesses that you make and try to make something out of it. That is called dictionary attack. And nowadays people tell you if you try 3 times, then it is blocked for. These are all security mitigation mechanisms that we apply to take care of dictionary attacks. And there are a lot of vulnerabilities that happens because ultimately when you go for a low priced product, then only it can reach to masses, then only company can make a profit out of it. Then you make compromises in the security testing process everywhere. So this many of the vulnerabilities that is getting exposed, and then people know that this is a potential area in which the authentication protocol vulnerabilities are there. And sometimes over-privileged attack. You should not be giving certain apps, rather than securing only camera, the app is being given access to camera, files, gallery, contacts, everything. So that is called over-privileged attack. And no way we have any mechanism by which any app that you are going to use, you don't have any mechanism by which you will be able to know how vulnerable they are. So in short, when you work with edge devices, there is a general notion that it is granted. They will work correctly. So what do you need to do when you come to, especially people who work in the IT team? Access control and surveillance to enhance physical security of the edge is very, very important. You may keep your data center locked, but the Wi-Fi access routers, the switches may be available in the corridor. It is not kept in the locked fashion. Tonight, someone else remove it and then put a new one in the night where there is no security guarding. You will never come to know. Tomorrow morning also, you are seeing the same Wi-Fi router, but it is a different one. It may be something secretly to somewhere else. It may be having a different additional functionality. So you need to have strict provision. CCTV cameras should be there. And then there should be round-the-clock physical security also available wherever edge devices are placed, because they play a very important role, and physical security of them is must. Control edge configuration and operation from central IT team. Let's say your edge device gets some technical issue and it's already having AMC. So you call the company, come and replace it. Company will come and replace. What are they replacing? You have no idea, because it's under warranty. This under warranty, which was a very favorite term, now it's becoming a big security bottleneck. What is this? See, I am telling some product is under warranty, then I am telling something faulty happens within the first 2 years. It's a replacement warranty. You are very happy that your faulty device is going and coming back. But when it comes back, you are not sure whether it's the same device or not. It can have some extra circuitry inside it, extra software that is downloaded in it, which will do something malicious. Similarly, we have new set of studies coming in new generation China mobile phones. The phone, it's work very good. After 2 years, a circuit inside the phone, which we call it as a hardware Trojan, will run, and they will slow down the phone. So what happens after 2 years, exactly after the warranty is over, you feel your phone is slow. Even though it's having 64 GB memory, all 64 GB cannot be used. Then suddenly you get an advertisement. Let's say your phone name is A. You get an advertisement from company A, there is a buyback option. You give an old A, we can give you a new A or new version of the same mobile phone at half the price. So you are very happy. So actually the company want you to give it back, and the company wanted to buy the new product. It is called version management through security vulnerabilities. Due to shortage of time, I'm not going to it. You need to have an audit procedure, an established audit procedure to control data and application hosting change in Edge. Any change that you do in Edge configuration, prior approval need to be there, and then it has to be done through a clear audit procedure, and apply highest level of network security between your device and the Edge. We always safeguard data centers, and security of any setup is as equal to the weakest link. So attacking servers is very difficult, but attacking Edge devices is going to be easier. Treat Edge 2 as part of the extended cloud in the IT infrastructure handling, and monitor and log all operations and configuration activities in the Edge. So there are many processors with the AI, IoT, and Edge support. You can further read on this if someone is interested. And ISEA is offering new security level courses from within a couple of months. So like the NPTEL, we have in Swayam platform new courses which will be started. Those who wanted to take security certifications, you will get the update from ISEA website soon. So the heart of everything what we heard, Edge devices, it's a kind of electronic data capture, and then you analyze this data and then use powerful computers to do the operations and to make meaningful conclusions out of it. So security vulnerability can happen at the capturing level, at the processing level, at the hardware level, and at the inference level if it is a wrong algorithm. So to conclude, IoT and Edge devices are already part of our daily life. We must pick up the right skills to contribute to secure systems engineering. And India needs good system or communication or security architects and design engineers to cater the growing demand of skilled personnel in this domain. So in this line, IITs and NITs are taking a pioneering role. Many students get complacent with the kind of job that they get immediately after their BTech program. So I urge you to consider writing GATE and look for higher study option for MTech either in India or abroad. Have a specialization for your engineering education so that later it can be getting benefited. So you get exposure to very high-end kind of setup and labs when you go to these premier institutes. We are also looking forward for good students joining us. That's all from my side. Good luck and make your country proud by your technical contributions. In the interest of time, probably I will leave it to the organizers regarding Q&A, or else if there is any query, you can mail to me.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I think there is one query. I think I'll just ask you. I think we'll take a couple of minutes for Q&A. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sir, the question is, can we keep our data locally and perform local analysis with some global model? If we send data to cloud or edge, there may be security breach of data.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. The problem is where it is doing processing, it is not under the user level. So you generally do any task with the help of an application. So the application by default will have a mechanism by which you get the data and the processing happens there. So the user don't have much of control where the analytics happens. If it is completely under your standalone program, it is fine. But sometimes you need to process it at a quicker machine where your local computing power may not be sufficient, or else you need to have data from multiple points to be processed together in order to make a meaningful conclusion. So data processing is not in the hand of the user who runs the program. That is the answer.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir. I think any more questions? I think due to lack of time, I think sir has given his mail ID johnjose@iitg.ac.in. You can offline ask him questions if possible. Okay. Okay,
Yes.
sir. I think thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for emphasizing on the challenges of security in edge and IoT devices, and the strategies you have given are really good, sir. And finally, your conclusion was really good. The skill set in India is very much important because a lot of students have to get into this field to make India better. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for joining
Thank
us.
you, Srikanth. Okay, okay. And wish you all the best for the rest of the session. And I wish all the participants a very good, productive time. Just enjoy this day's workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thanks, sir. Yeah. So let's move to the next speaker. He's Mr. Vivek Mishra. Sir, you are there? Hello.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Yeah, sir. If you can
Can you hear me?
put on your video. Yeah. It's voice is okay, sir. If you can put on your video, that will be good, if possible.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think let us start off with the next session, that is on drone security by Mr. Vivek Mishra. Sir, with your permission, I'll just read out your profile, a brief profile,
Sure.
so that people will be aware of what you do. Okay. So Mr. Vivek Mishra is the co-founder of Rafi Mfir Private Limited and serves on its board of directors as well. He looks after the electrical, electronics and control department at Rafi. He completed his Bachelor of Technology from NIT Bhopal in Electrical Engineering and his Master of Science from Georgia Institute of Technology, USA in Robotics and Controls. He also did his PhD from Georgia Institute of Technology, Gatech, USA. His PhD is about using interaction of swarm of autonomous UAVs with human to perform a complex task such as searching a lost aeroplane in the ocean. Mr. Vivek has also developed and deployed optimal autonomous algorithms for various ground and aerial robots, including two-wheeled ground robo, multi-rotors, and indoor blimps. He has been associated with organizations like BPCL, that is Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited, Georgia Tech Systems Research, and so on as a research scientist. As a research scientist at GTSR, he designed, developed, and patented an indoor autonomous blimp. This project won recognition by IEEE in Australia in the year 2016. He also worked as a flapping wing micro aerial vehicles and increased its performance by 25%. In BPCL, he developed auto capping unit, which helped increasing the production capacity by 10%. He also worked on automating the safety procedure, which led to one of the best performances during the annual safety audit done by central authorities. Mr. Vivek Mishra has developed expertise in system identification, controls, robotics, and artificial intelligence. He is the lead author of several research papers published in the world's best controls and robotic conferences. He also uses his work experience in the field of electronics to head the electronics team, which designs and develops every electronic component required for the UAV and other autonomous systems developed in Rafi. In addition to that, he has used his expertise to design optimal control algorithms using system identification techniques for UAVs and other products developed in Rafi. Passionate about extreme programming algorithms and has a great user-focused vision for software development. He has also applied his diversified software skills to lead projects ranging from enterprise solutions, ground control stations, scientific testing suites to embedded firmware development. He has done great work on computer vision and deep learning technologies for target detection and obstacle avoidance features on UAVs. I think which is a wide profile. I think we are looking forward for you, sir, with your session on drone security. It's over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your kind words. I'm trying to share the slides which I have.
Sir, you able to share or any issue?
Yeah, I'm not able to share it. There is some issue. That's all right. I can just talk about it. Is that all right?
Yeah, I think, sir, I think if possible, I think there is a third button. I think share. You are not able to do it, sir, because you are
Okay, I may have to log out and then come back.
okay or not. You can present off, sir. Not a problem. I think, or you can share your PPT. I'll be present. I'll be sharing the thing, and you can just speak on it.
Okay, that sounds good.
And that's all.
Is there any online tools to check our IoT ecosystem support? Announcements in the Keynote Address, you can keep it in the chat room.
Participants, any doubts, you can put it in the chat box so that we can ask the respective speakers.
So can you share your email address where I can share the PPT with you?
Yeah. Yeah, just. Yeah. So I put up my mail ID on the chat box, sir. You can, I think, you can share it.
Okay.
By that time you can speak on, sir, and I'll be sharing by that time, sir. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just a second. Sorry about this.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
మీరే చేయలేరు నేను కూడా ఏం చేయలేను ఆయనకి ఉంది పర్మిషన్ స్క్రీన్ వచ్చిందా సార్
Yeah. Sorry about the delay. As everyone is aware, drone technology has taken off like anything in the last few years. And right now, drone applications have been from defense sector to commercial sector, wherein drones are being actively used in agriculture, logistics, medical services, and whatnot. A lot of these applications of drones are essentially dependent on the communication which exists between the ground control station, which is operated by a human being, and the drone. And this communication is a wireless communication. This wireless communication actually renders it prone to a lot of attacks, which can happen during the flight, and to be honest, when the flights are not happening as well. So to start with, I'll talk about what are different kinds of communication which happen between a ground control station, and what are the data which are being shared. So in most of the cases, there are three kinds of information which are shared between a ground control station and a drone. Number one is the health monitoring system, which sends the data about the UAV to the ground control station, so that the operator at all the times is aware of, say, position, the remaining batteries, velocities, accelerations, etc. about the drone. The second is the real-time videos. Real-time videos of the optical cameras or the IR cameras, depending on the use cases, are always being transmitted from the drone to the ground control station, so that the operator can either make decisions based on these videos, or if it's for a surveillance purpose, record these videos and do the post processing on these videos. The third, which is the most important thing, is the command and control of the drone. So these wireless communication networks are used for providing real-time commands to the drones. These commands can be about the navigation of the drones, or in case of other application, it can be when you're doing surveillance, this can be controlling the gimbal of the drone. If it's a combat drone, it can be about acquiring the target or releasing your combat payload. If it's an agricultural drone, it could be about looking at the crop besides the drone and setting the flow rate of, say, the pesticide which it is spraying. Now, all these three networks are prone to attacks. In case of, say, you're operating a swarm of drones, which is now being actively used both in defense and entertainment industry, there is an inter-drone communication happening, because there are a couple of networks which are being used to control a swarm of drones. One is a centralized control, wherein the control commands to each of the drones is being sent from a base station. And if it's a decentralized network, then the drones communicate amongst themselves to share some critical information for real-time path planning and execution. These drones can also share their health and videos amongst themselves for the onboard post-processing and then decision making on path planning and control. So switching to what are these networks, what types of networks these drones use. So the most common type of network, which lot of commercial and even defense drones use, is a Wi-Fi based protocol. So the Wi-Fi protocol was adapted to work for peer-to-peer or multi-peer networks. And this is the most prevalent network and also most vulnerable one, because it's an open protocol and people know about these protocols from long time, and it's easy for them to actually attack these networks by getting the network IDs through the drones itself. The communication band channels are defined, so you can probe the networks easily, and this opens up the network for other people. Other two common type of networks, or actually not that common but which exist in the market, are ad hoc peer-to-peer networks, which are more secure in the sense that in these kinds of network, an ad hoc hardware is created with a proprietary software, so that the ground control station can talk to the drones directly. And usually these are peer-to-peer networks in the sense that the ground control station can only talk to one UAV at a time. Now these, if there has been a lot of research where one ground control station can be programmed in such a way, these networks can be programmed in such a way that multiple drones can simultaneously talk to one ground control station for the case of the swarm of drones. The third type of networks which are used is, communication which are used is satellite communication. This is usually used for long range communication and mostly for the defense purposes, because getting satellite communication for commercial sector is not that open. Now coming to what are the risks when it comes to operating drones with, say, open networks or Wi-Fi protocols, or even ad hoc networks which are fairly open. The first is leakage of sensitive videos. Now this especially this case is more this case is more relevant to the defense sector, in the sense that if you're flying a drone which is collecting data and transmitting it to the transmitting it real time to a network, if this can be hacked or the videos could be stored and later taken out, then for the defense forces, it's very important for them to not disclose the locations where they are flying from, and not disclose the patterns in which they are doing the surveillance. Other cases could be a secure place, a secure lab, or even industries which have pipelines. Getting videos of those installments would be a high risk for those industries. The second type of data which is at higher risk is again the GPS locations and the operational trends, which are always stored as a flight map on the drones and can be taken out. The third risk, which actually is the much bigger risk, is possibility of remotely installed bugs. Now, if your drone is on a Wi-Fi network and you don't have the control over the servers which this is communicating to, then you open up these drones for installation of bugs remotely. Now, this becomes more complicated when there are hardware bugs as well on the flight control system, which could have a microphone, which can have additional GPS, video recorders, which can access these microphones and videos. And even when the drone is not operational, you're opening up to the data breach. The fourth risk, which is again a high risk, is possibility of remote access of drones. So if your network can be attacked, then essentially you're opening up to the remote access of drones, which means that since these networks are used to give command to control the drone, you are opening up these drones to the possibility that these can be controlled wirelessly from somewhere else. We have already flagged these risks to the government of India, because initially a lot of drones were being imported from the other countries, which may or may not be friendly to us. And especially the risk of getting these videos out, or secured locations information out, or even for the case of armed drones, if they can be remotely accessed, then this poses a great threat to the nation. Now, talking about how can we reduce these risks or eliminate these risks. The first one is to use peer-to-peer networks, and I would put an emphasis on developing these peer-to-peer networks in India. So, for example, we have developed our own hardware and software for the peer-to-peer networks, and the frequencies can be customized according to the user requirements. Now, this gives you the power to secure your network to the highest extent possible. And again, since these are peer-to-peer networks, hacking these in flight becomes very difficult. In case you want to use a Wi-Fi network, which in certain cases you can't avoid, say for commercial sectors, or you can't switch to other frequencies because in commercial sectors you need to take the required licenses for using other frequencies, then it is much better to use in-house secure servers. So either you can house these servers in your organization or to the customers who are using these drones, and this again gives you the flexibility to to create a secure network since you have the servers in-house. The third precaution which you can take is an encryption of the communication. Now, this again, you can't do if you don't have in-house manufacturing or in-house research on the peer-to-peer or Wi-Fi networks. But it is always a good idea to have an encrypted communication where you have the control over the key for the encryption as well, and frequently change these keys so that during the flight you're safe. See, if you provide encryption to the peer-to-peer network, it becomes much more difficult to actually hack these, because these drones usually fly for 3, 4, 5 hours, and the target area or the areas where you're flying, it would remain there for 3, 4 hours. If your encryption is of say 256 AES, it's really difficult to crack that key in that amount of time. Now, finally, a lot of people in the commercial sector have been using open source platforms for developing the drones and using open source communication protocols. Now, it becomes important that you don't use those open protocols for communication, because since it's an open source protocol, everyone is aware of those protocols. So when you're operating in sensitive areas, or somebody wants to do some damage to the drone and they know the communication protocol itself, then it's very easy for them to send a signal if they know the band, and make the drone do whatever they want. So actually a lot of anti-drone technologies which have been developed, especially if you have heard of these drone guns, are using the same concept, wherein they know what frequency of operation is happening, and they know that these are the open source communication protocols which a lot of people are using. They can send commands in those protocols and control the drones. So it becomes important to do the complete research for the peer-to-peer network, in which the hardware part, the software part, encryption part, and the communication protocol parts, where the communication hardware communicates to the flight controller, that protocol needs to be developed in-house. And as I was talking about, that these four things, if we are able to do, then this provides resilience to the anti-drone technology as well. So I think this is all which I wanted to talk about for the case of security of communication when it comes to the drones. If there are any questions, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vivek Mishra. I think any questions from audience you can put up in the chat box. Put up in the chat box. Yeah, if there are no questions, I think we are really thankful, Vivek, for giving a wonderful session on drones and what are the communications which happen in drones, what are the vulnerabilities which are there in drones, and what are the risks which can happen in drone communication and so. And what are the mitigation mechanisms also you have emphasized. We are really thankful to that. I think thank you very much for joining us. One small question from the audience. 4 questions. Achha, 4 questions from the audience are there. Can we take them up?
Sure, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. The thing is, as as can be ensured to secure and protect from drone hacks, to remove the inbuilt no-fly zones and altitude limit based on drone firmware.
Sorry, you were not audible. Can you say that again, please?
Yeah, the question is, as can be ensured to secure and protect from drone hacks, to remove the inbuilt no-fly zones and altitude limit based on drone firmware. Can you explain about it?
See, the drone hacks would happen there are two ways. One is during the in-flight, and one is when it's at the base station. Now, if you're talking about if we are flying in the no flight zone, can we have something in the firmware which can help the drone fly in the no fly zone? Is that what your question is?
Yeah, I think his question is something is that anything we can put it in the drone firmware. So that's what he was asking, I think.
Okay. See, again, the drone firmware, usually when the firmware is operating, as in if you have a flight controller and you have deployed a autopilot in that, preventing from hacks is easier when you have your own communication protocol, as I was talking about. Say, firmware would always have to talk to the communication devices. If your communication devices can be hacked, then the firmware can't do anything about it, because you always need to have a connection between GCS, ground control station, and the drone. So it's, if the attacker knows about your protocols, knows about your frequencies, then the firmware does not know if it's being attacked or not. So that is why I was talking about getting your developing our own protocols and developing our own hardwares. If we can do that, then the attacker won't even be able to communicate with the firmware.
Yeah,
Does
thank you,
that
sir.
answer your question?
Yeah, I think one more question is, can you explain on no flying zones, what exactly they are and all?
See, no flying zones have been implemented by the government of India. So, and through DGCA, of course. So, there are places which are sensitive, and these have been declared red zones or no fly zones, where you are not legally permitted to fly. So these can be government offices or security headquarters, and these have been provided, this list has been provided by the government of India, wherein you're not allowed legally to fly the drones over that area at whatever altitude. There are other two categorizations where there is yellow zone and green zone. Green zone, you can fly at 4,000 feet or 6,000 feet, depending on what is the category of the drone. And yellow zones have their own limitations, in which you have different altitudes where you can fly it, but you can't fly below or above that.
Yeah. So the next question is, are drone attacks ethical? Also, do drone make wars more likely?
See, attacks are never ethical, and it depends. It's subjective to what is the use case. If some foreign national or some drone is trying to enter a red zone or a non-permitted zone, then you need to attack either wirelessly or non-wirelessly. If a drone is being used for a commercial sector, and it's doing its job, and some miscreant is trying to control it, then of course it's not ethical, because a regular work is going on. Do drones make wars more likely? I don't think so. It's a technology, and technology can be used in a good way or a bad way. And if somebody is trying to behave in a miscreant manner, then of course it's going to cause friction between the two countries.
Sorry, sir. What encryption is off-the-shelf drones using?
So there are multiple commercial hardwares which use around 100, some of them use 128 bit AES and some use 250 bit, 256 bit AES, but most of them won't provide you a key of your choice. So I would again recommend that if you want to go into building drones, if you want to go into operating drones, you should develop your own communication system.
Sir, couple of more questions, sir. Is there any frequency limit for the drones?
So these frequency limits are not specific to drones. So there are some free bands and then there are some restricted bands, which is common to all applications. So for example, 2.4 gigahertz is a free band, which is free for public to use. So most of the commercial communication devices which you would get is 2.4 gigahertz or 867 to 868 megahertz or 415 megahertz. So it's a blanket frequency restriction, and drones is a sub part of it.
Sir, one final question. What can you please tell us about drone hardening? Or
Yes,
drone
so
firmware hardening. Sorry.
so okay, sorry, is it hardening in general or some specific part?
So they mention it as drone firmware hardening, sir.
I am not sure about what firmware hardening means in this context, but usually if you're talking about robustness, then yes, um, uh, all the firmwares. See, drone is an aerial system, and these firmwares would be deployed in sub-components of it. So there are multiple components such as your flight controller, which is an autopilot, then the communication system, then the payload system, and all of them would have their own firmwares. And it's very important to follow IEEE 12207 standards to actually make sure that your firmwares are designed, developed, and tested in a manner which is robust.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Vivek. I think it was nice listening to your session, and the question Q&A was really good. I think it was a lot of information was there in the thing. Thank you very much for joining us. We expect more sessions from you in near future from us. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Vivek.
Thank
you. Yeah. Guys, I think we'll move to the next session. I think sir is already there. Suresh sir is already there. So the next session would be on IoT security standards. So it will be by Mr. Suresh Chandra sir. He's Director STQC New Delhi. So I think let me, with his permission, I think let me read out his profile for you guys to know. So Mr. Suresh Chandra sir, he is currently the Director and Head of IT and eGov, Head Certification Body, Common Criteria, Head BDCS and QR Code Biometric Device Certification Scheme, and Head of NCMC STQC Ministry of Electronics and IT. He pursued BTech in Electronics and Communication from AMU, Aligarh, and MBA from UBS, PU Chandigarh. His professional qualifications include Intro to CMM course, ISMS Lead Auditor, Common Criteria Evaluator, CSQP, that is Certified Software Quality Professional, and Software Reliability. His work areas include conformity assessment of ego projects, mainly for functional, performance, security, SLA, and project documentation. He is currently heading various certification schemes, which include Common Criteria Certification Scheme, BDCS, that is Biometric Device Certification Scheme, QR Code, NCMC, that is National Common Mobility Card, and Trusted Electronics Value Chain. He is involved in the preparation of standards, frameworks, and guidelines, and part of various committees in ISO, IEC, and BIS. Sir, it's about you, sir. It's all over to you. you can take up the session, sir.
Thank you very much for very elaborate introduction. So thank you. I think you had already lecture on IoT security. So here I am just mixing two things: IoT security and then how to evaluate the various IoT devices, and then followed by standard. So this will be my content of this today presentation. So IoT security assessment, I am directly starting with the assessment. And regarding this IoT, you know, there are various challenges and issue related to IoT security assessment. Recently, STQC launched the pilot scheme for IoT system certification also. Basically, this was the requirement from our ministry and from industry that India should have some certification scheme. You may be aware that Singapore has already launched one of the scheme, and there they are doing some labeling of IoT devices like level 1, level 2. And there what they are doing in level 1, they are simply asking the compliance from the manufacturer or device provider. So on the basis of that compliance statement provided by them, they are just issuing the certificate for level 1. And in level 2, they are doing some verification and validation. So I was looking their site, they are having some IoT devices at L1, basically on the basis of just verification of document. But at L2 level, there are very few products, not many products. But STQC scheme, this is a detailed scheme, and the standard followed is OWASP of IoT. So let me start with why this assessment is required and what are the various components of this assessment of IoT. But before that, let us discuss some of the challenges which are there in IoT. You may be aware that most of the IoT, they are low powered. So for providing adequate cryptographic capability for security purposes, because of this low power, there is a challenge how to implement all those security mechanisms. And these IoT devices, generally they are connected with high computing power system also. So this is one of the challenge, low power. Generally, these devices, they are low cost. And when we are producing something at lower cost, like camera, we want to have the camera of lowest price. Like you may buy the camera in 1,500 rupee also, you can buy in 15,000 also. So you can assume that how to implement all those security mechanism depending upon the cost of the camera. So if you are having low cost, you can assume that what type of security mechanism may be implemented or may not be there. So that is also a big challenge in IoT. The other critical challenge is inadequate memory capacity. So that is also a challenge. And the challenge, the reason being in IoT, you are having firmware, some software, and all these things are required update also. And if there is a failure, so then that is also a critical aspect. If you are not having some extra space so that you can store that firmware before installing the new firmware. So that memory capacity is also a big challenge. Generally, these IoT devices, they are automatically managed. Means that IoT device needs to be automatically managed due to typical IoT ecosystem and complexity. And any compromise of these IoT device may lead to some botnet. And this may be the biggest reason for your DDoS attack. These devices are remotely managed, means dispatching this technician is expensive. So what you are doing, you are remotely managing these device with some your associate, and from there you are managing all these devices. So that is also a challenge for these devices. And this challenge leads to an open area for attack also. I'm moving to the next slide. Start moving.
So we are able to see.
You are able to see?
Yes, sir, we are able to see IoT standardization efforts, right?
No, it's just, this is the end of the slide.
Okay.
Previous. Why it is going to the end, I don't know. Actually, this was the starting point. It was already at some other place. Let us continue with that slide only, and I am just discussing the challenges only. Each IoT device that should have some identity. Otherwise, there may be the issue of this tamper resistance problem, traceability, and fraud also. So we should have identity, means that let us say you are having camera installed at some railway station. So it should not be like that somebody is putting his own camera and replacing that camera, the original camera, with the other camera. So there should be some identity, and there should be some mechanism also for detection of that. It's hanging.
Yeah, it moved to the next one, sir, now.
Yeah. And the other critical aspect is these IoT device, they should have secure boot mechanism. So secure boot mechanism means that when there is a requirement for update of firmware or some software or some any configuration, so that should have some trusted hash or trusted signature and some public key. And for doing all these things, that IoT should also support this. As we discussed earlier in the slide, there is a issue of the memory also. Limited capacity is available. So if those things are not available, then the secure boot also the problem, and this is a critical requirement. And because of the lower capacity of the memory, that task may not be completed efficiently and effectively. And as I discussed with you, we are doing assessment also for all those things. So like understand the secure boot process of an IoT device gateway with the help of documentation. Here means that if we want to assess all those problems, So we require the detail from the manufacturer or service provider or whoever is the supplier. So he should be aware about all those details so that we can perform all those activity effectively. Manual code review is also required to validate the implementation of the secure boot. And then dynamic security analysis is also required for the validation of the secure boot. For secure update, similarly for secure boot, before updating any firmware software, verify firmware software integrity. So that is very critical. Protect the private key stored at the backend server like HSM. So whether this is certified as per FIPS or not certified. So any compromise of this key may lead to a problem. So again, to validate this secure update, evaluation is done. So to understand the secure update process of IoT device gateway with the help of documentation, the same thing, we have to study the design, we have to understand from the manufacturer how this update is being done. And all other activity like manual code review and dynamic code review is also done. Secure ownership transfer here means there may be change in, let us say, administrator you are having, who is sitting at the SOC. So whether all login password they are transferred securely to the new one, or if you are changing, let us say, the device, IoT device, then also that ownership, secure ownership transfer is required. The other critical requirement is these devices should be tamper resistance. Like if camera is installed and if somebody want to disturb it, so there should be some alert mechanism, some resistance mechanism in all those devices. Like if somebody is replacing that original camera with, let us say, some duplicate camera, so it should not be connected in that network. Or if you want to tamper the existing one, so all the data which is available, let us say at present, is stored in the camera, that should be deleted. So the tamper resistance mechanism has to be provided by the manufacturer. And what type of mechanism they have implemented in a particular IoT device, that has to be validated. So that is the validation aspect. The other aspect is when this data is generated at the basically at the edge, wherever this IoT is deployed. So whatever data is generated, so all those data, whether that data is securely transferred to the backend. So that is also the evaluation aspect, the assessment aspect. So whatever data is being transferred, whatever data is at transit stage, whether you are having some security mechanism for that data. So that is also evaluated. Other security requirements are basically all these devices, they are provisioned. And when you are doing provisioning there, you are putting some keys, some private keys there. Some signatures also they are put it in the device. So whether when you are putting all these keys in the device, so whether this provisioning is secure. So all these keys, they are transferred from one place to another. So you have to validate whether that network is secure, whether the person who is working in that provisioning server, so he is having the right for doing that, he is the right person. So that access control mechanism, you are having all those logs created so that that person cannot deny that he has not done any provisioning. So in provisioning, you have to see that right application is loaded in the IoT chip, right keys are loaded in the IoT chip. Basically in provisioning, you are basically assessing that the right lot is there, and for that right lot, you are having the right private keys. When provisioning is done, the chips identification is done through lots, and for that lot, there may be number of chip which has to be provisioned. So those number may be anything depending upon the requirement. So that counting is also there. So that is why all these aspects are there while you are doing secure provisioning. And these secure provisioning may be at the chip manufacturer place, or they may be some other place also. Principle of minimal privilege. So whoever is doing all these activity, so minimal privilege is required here, means that he should do whatever is assigned to him. It's not be like that you are giving all the privileges to any user and he can do anything. So privacy-centric features may also be there. IoT device shall use feature like anonymous device or radio identity during onboarding and attestation. Protection of data at rest. So that is also a critical requirement. So we have seen that security mechanism of data at transit and security mechanism of data at rest is also very critical. Other critical requirements are cryptographic operation. That is also very critical. So what type of crypto mechanism you are using for maintaining the security, adequate security. So that has to be decided. It should not be like that you are using some algorithm and that algorithm can be broken or compromised. So that is also assessed and audited by the auditor. So whatever mechanism is implemented, whether it is certified mechanism or whatever algorithm they are being used, they are also certified. These are not a type of mechanism which can be compromised. The various ports which are available in IoT, all these should be disabled. There should not be any overlay network type of mechanism. Those should be protected. Other security requirements, you should have secure API wherever you are having interfaces to the IoT for capturing the data or transferring of the data. So all those IoT, they should be tested for security. Any development or test or debug API should not be present in production IoT devices. All input to IoT device should be validated. So basically, it means that whatever inputs to be provided, whatever outcomes are there in API, all those should be validated. It should not be like that there is an API to be used for a particular purpose, and that API has been modified by somebody. And that means some compromise may happen related to the security mechanism. So that is why secure API and the authenticated API is must if it is being used in IoT. Secure protocol use IoT device shall use standardized communication protocols with no known vulnerability and secure for life cycle of the device. Assessment related activity, they required a secure code review as I discussed earlier also. At various stages, a secure code review is required. It may be the static code review, it may be dynamic code review. At some places, both are required, and it is recommended that both should be done. It is very important to review the architecture also for IoT, and this architecture should be reviewed in respect of security. Automated tool may also be used for doing this analysis and verification if and the purpose is that there is no known bug is available either in IoT device or in code or in the network. There may be need to write some scripts also for doing various tests of IoT. Debugging firmware software of IoT device using debug codes. There may be need for performing various destructive tests also, like side channel attack, penetration test attack in the network. Keep updated list of vulnerability reported. If you are finding something, some known vulnerability, so we should validate that these known vulnerability, they are not available in your network, they are not available in your IoT device. So that is why this VAPT is very critical, and this should be done on regular basis. Capacity building. IoT devices are used in unprecedented number and variety of use cases are there. So verification and validation of IoT device, as I discussed in the previous slide, is very critical and important. It should be done on regular basis and by the skilled person who is having the specialized knowledge of this VAPT. While these devices are certified, it is not the end that if one time is certified and for next 3 years, let us say validity, and you are not doing anything. So regular surveillance of these IoT devices is required. Regular surveillance of your network is also required. So it should not be like that once it is certified and now we can do anything. And because of this inherent nature of IoT, there are various other use cases also. There are various environment also. There are various threat surface also in IoT. So we should have all this real-time knowledge. What are the latest vulnerability? What are the available latest standards, international standards, our local standards? So all those awareness is required while we are in this IoT domain. At the end, there are some international standard. Some of them are at draft stage, like 30141 from ISO IEC. This is the reference architecture standard. 27030 is a guideline for security and privacy of IoT. This is also at draft stage. Briefly, I can provide some input about this standard. This is nothing but their main focus is on the risk analysis. So wherever you are having IoT devices in the network, so they are asking for the risk analysis, keeping in mind, keeping the focus of IoT. So that risk analysis may be done at IoT level also and at the network level also. And then what contingency or countermeasure you are having for all those risks. And further, the testing related activity may also be done, like when there is a risk related to the IoT. After doing this analysis, you should do some sort of testing. So a standard is very open for that. Their main starting point is risk. So that is my purpose to explain here. The other standard is 27402. This is a standard which is having the main focus on privacy. So you can say this may be the extension of the previous standard 27030. The critical aspect is privacy here. 27403 IoT security and privacy. This is the standard for guideline for IoT domotics, and other one was device baseline requirement. 21823, this is for interoperability of IoT system, the part 1. 21823 part 2, this is interoperability for IoT system, transport interoperability, and first one was for framework. Part 3, this is for semantic interoperability, and part 4 is for this interoperability for Internet of Things systems, semantic interoperability. There are various standards of basically in IoT which are specific to some country. So I think we should not focus on those standards. We should, I think, target some international standard only. And with the reason being the wider applicability and adaptability of these standards. There is an open standard also, OWASP, on IoT. And this standard basically dividing the security in 3 parts, L1, L2, L3. And this is also describing what is the meaning of L1 IoT devices, low security devices, L2, you can say medium security, L3 means high security devices. And in this OWASP standard, there are checkpoints related to the L1. There are additional checkpoint in L2. So L1 checkpoint plus additional checkpoint, so it becomes L2. And L3 means L1 plus L2 and some additional checkpoint. It is L3. So L3 is generally done for critical devices. Presently, STQC certification scheme, which we have taken approval from our computer authority, is based upon the OWASP. And in future, after the release of these ISO IEC standard, we will do further analysis. We will validate all those checkpoints and requirement with the ISO IEC standards, like this 27030 or the other standard related to the privacy or interoperability, and necessary correction in the scheme will be done. So these are some major standard, and this is all from my side. I will be happy to answer you if you have some queries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I think any questions from the participants?
So one question is like, if I am a manufacturer, I have a device with me. If I have to go undergo the certification from STQC, what is the general procedure for that, sir?
Procedure is very simple. We are having an application form. You have to fill that application form, and there you can specify that what level of certification you want, L1, L2, L3. We will be requiring the device detail also, like this is the IoT, this is a serial number, this is a model, this is a manufacturer country, this is a manufacturer name, and this application number will be allotted to our laboratory, and then that laboratory will further do testing evaluation. As I mentioned that majorly this testing evaluation done on the basis of a checklist. And for the compliance of that checklist, details will be required. All those details will be provided by the manufacturer.
So, and then this includes all the entire process also, or it is only the device level audit generally?
Basically, it is like that. If you are the manufacturer and let us say you are visualizing that some RFP of some smart city may come within 3 years or 6 months, 3 months or 6 months. So you can take pre-certification of this IoT device. Okay, then system will not come into the picture. So we can certify only the IoT device alone. The other scenario may be that IoT device is already installed in the system. Let us say some smart city, and there is a requirement of user that they want certification of this system, including IoT. So both are possible.
Okay, sir.
Am I clear?
Yeah,
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, thank you very much. I think no more questions from the audience. So I think really thank you, sir, for joining us on this webinar on IoT security. I think it was really good that you have emphasized on IoT security assessment, the mechanisms for security audit, and even the requirements required for IoT security and IoT standardization efforts. Thank you very much, sir. So it was a good session for us. It was a learning session. Thank you very much for joining today, sir.
Okay, it's my pleasure. Thank you all.
Thank you all, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.